Good evening. It is time for our special meeting of the City Council today to discuss our budget. I appreciate everyone who's here. I do call this meeting to order. Roll call, please.
Spiller.
Here.
Dow.
Here.
Moxley.
Here.
Marshall. Norman.
Here.
Nation. Wade. Warner. Johnson.
Here. Item number one is the discussion of the 2014-2015 draft budget. All of you on the council here should have already read most of this and got through it and got plenty of questions. I'm going to have our financial officer discuss it with you now. Go ahead.
Well, this is the fun part that, you sit around and you guys know it's that time of year again. Spring's here, baseball's out playing, Lynn's going to St. Louis to watch his Cardinals, and it's time to do a budget. I think all of those go hand in hand every year whenever we get to this time of year. So it is one of those things that, I'm going to start out with a budget is a budget. It's not going to be set in stone. You guys have seen even over this year, that things come up, we change, we have to do those, we have to do different things as it goes about. Tim and Clayton, I know you guys are going to get kind of maybe first feel through some of these things that we've done. Hopefully we can answer all the questions today to the extent we can. We'll sit down and do more one-on-ones with those. I've already spoken with Brad and Mary and Meredith and I and Brett, and so they've already been through it, so them not being here was already expected. They were going to be committed today, so they're not going to be here. So hopefully, though, we can kind of talk through this. The department heads are here. They can talk about their individual budgets. They can talk about the things that are going on in there. Really today, the main thing that they're going to hit for you is going to be the capital outlay items, the bigger purchases that need to go in. Whenever we look at this budget, whenever we take a look at it and kind of go through it, we break each of our departments down into what we call their object level expenses categories. And those object level expense categories are what you saw in the budget, but your personal services, your materials and supplies, other charges and services, capital outlay, debt service, and transfers. Those are all considered object level expenses. And so as we go through this year in and year out, personal services, we know how many people are in the departments, and we know what needs to be budgeted based on those, what the additional requests are for personnel. We can kind of hit that number pretty solid as to what we know our benefits cost, what we pay Social Security, workers' comp, health insurance, retirement. We know all of those pieces. Likewise, on our materials and supplies, month in and month out, we know what fuel is going to run for each department. We know what we're going to pay given year in and year out for repairs and maintenance and those kind of things. So we kind of set those numbers hard, and we know that. Likewise with our other charges and services, which usually includes our insurance, our telephones, and the ancillary expenses that go on in the department, especially if there's any outside contractual commitments for things, it shows up down in that other charges and services. With the history we have and with the time and department heads that we've had that have really been in their positions as long as they have, they kind of know year in and year out what they're going to be spending on those kind of things. They know what needs to be done. And so we try to budget those kind of as a static number. Those are not the hard pieces to project. The department heads kind of put together their budgets, but amazingly, whenever they put them together outside of what Mary has us kind of compile at the end, they're really very similar to what you're going to see in there. Now, those individual department requests are what are included back in the very back tab of your binder. So those are the raw numbers that have come in, and that's where those pieces come from. The numbers up under the second, or I guess the first full tab that's there, are really the numbers that we're going to be talking about today and dealing with. So whenever I say that, we put together a budget, and our budget's going to be put together based on 90% of our reoccurring revenues. Reoccurring revenues are our general fund, city revenues, sales tax, use tax, our tobacco. We try to be conservative in those numbers. We don't want to ever over project. We've been seeing a consistent growth in those numbers, but in order to be conservative, if something were to happen, we're always going to budget that number at 90%, and fall back. Now, for some reason, we might have a year that we see 10% growth in that sales tax. I'm not gonna budget an extra 10% growth in the following year, because the last thing I wanna do is get halfway through the year and have to come back to you all and say, hold on, we don't have enough cash in the bank, or we're not generating enough revenues to get us through. Likewise, as we do that, we also will budget, plenty of money in our expense side. We try to be aggressive on the expenses, not extra, but making sure that we cover the operating cost of those expenses and what's going on. We even dock pay whenever people decide to show up late for, work, whenever they show up late for council meetings, or, oh, sorry.
Yeah, that's gonna make a big difference in the budget.
Sorry. But, those are kind of, so that's kind of where we come from whenever we're putting that together. And so today, we're gonna talk about the extra items, the things that the department heads need on top of year in and year out, what we have to get by. We consider most of those our capital projects. You're gonna see most all of them are a little more significant in nature. They're higher dollars. And we kind of break those out into two groups. We break those out on these sheets. You're gonna see them as things that we've already included in the budget, and then things that were requested that based on the budget that we have, we can't include at this point. And I'll kind of explain a little bit of what those numbers are here in just a second. But that's kind of the overview of where we're going. We like this to be open. Department heads are here so we can ask questions about their department, about what's going on. If there's things that you guys want to know, we have that piece set there and kind of have it available so you all can look at it. Yes, Meredith didn't.
I think it's important for the new council members to know you are approving this budget at the department level. So there's other information that Russ can talk to you through, but at the department level is what you're approving. So that's important for you.
No.
Sorry to steal your thunder.
She doesn't trust me to do this anyhow. Yes, you're right. So yes, she has to be here to babysit. She's afraid I might give away the farm or
Speaking
something.
of docking some pay.
If I'm if I'm not taken care of.
Sentence on the budget memo.
Yes.
She wants to.
Let's just put it out there, we like her more than you.
Now my feelings are really hurt. I will leave her with, no. You guys have two pieces of paper at your chairs. A couple of items that are requested. One is the Oklahoma Tax Commission sales tax chart. This downloaded straight from the OTC for what current sales tax rates are. The counties is the first column, but really starting in column 2, 3, and 4 of this page are all of the cities broken out. If you flip on over to the second page, we've highlighted Perry's, sales tax at 3.25%. You're going to see 4.5s on this. Matter of fact, there's a 5. A couple of places blended in here. You'll see lots of 3s and even a few lower than that. But right now, looking at our city sales tax, of 3.25%. That's the reason I want to bring that up is, kind of goes along with what the next sheet is, and the other sheet is the MISO Winter Rate Survey 2014. So these were the rates that just came out from 2014 that MISO has gone through and pulled. We have sorted these based on the 500 kilowatt hour customers. So that being what they would deem a typical residential customer. And so that number is there. You can look at the difference between where Perry sets on a 500 kilowatt customer versus where, the midpoint is $4 and change to get us between where we are and a midpoint on a monthly bill. A lot of times we talk percentages and we talk those kind of numbers, and people really get lost and think that, oh man, these numbers get huge fast and everything else. I will point out, that's really what we're talking about. We're talking about a $4 difference. The question came up earlier. We have changed our utility rate in how we present it month in and month out. We didn't have any utility rate increase on electric whenever we did the last change, but we changed how we calculated our power cost adjustment, our PCA. You know, that PCA adjustment and that change that we made was strictly so that we could more closely reflect what was happening with fuel and breaking it completely out of our rate, so that the citizens could see what was going on with fuel whenever their price of electricity went up and down. You know, being that, you know, our fuel rate cost is driven, and this PCA adjustment is driven based on the fuel cost, what it costs for NISO to produce electricity, and what our demand factor is. And demand comes in, and I'd love for you guys to come down and sit down, and we'll have a whole class. Mary will teach the whole class on this piece, but it's a combination of two pieces there. And so whenever you look at our overall cost of electricity, the underlying thing you have to remember is demand drives a lot of what our overall cost is. And we can show you that calculation and that allocation of what it is. But demand comes whenever we don't consistently use the same amount of electricity 24 hours a day. We end up with a peak time during the day or during the period that we use a whole lot more electricity than we do at the lowest point. And so they have to build the grid, they have to build our power supply based on that. That honestly is probably one of the leading drivers in our overall cost of electricity relative to everything else that goes on. Again, just wanted a little bit of a discussion on that. If you guys want to discuss that more or go through it, more than happy to sit down and discuss it in detail. You know, go through what those numbers are and what they mean. Likewise on this are included the water and the sewer and the garbage, just so you all can kind of see where the other municipalities rank out. Again, these are only the NISO customers, so but I think it gives us a good feel. Like I said, on this one, as you're looking, you know, you're going to see us at 6 out of the 30. You know, we are less than 1% difference in our rate versus even the 15th percentile or further down. So not a significant different. If I'm looking at it from a significant difference dollar, I'm not going to tell you we are significantly different in our overall cost of electricity. And I know that's a question that's coming up to you guys. That being said, you know, one of the things that we build this budget around also is utility rate increases. This budget that we're going to talk about today on a utility rate side has 0 electric rate increase for this year. You know, that was where we started out, and that's can be a point of discussion as you guys want to discuss it, but we built this on a 0. We have included a 2% rate increase for water and sewer. You know, between the water, sewer, and garbage, that 2% rate increase really generates us about $53,000 a year. So, you know, it's a whole lot less significant. 2% on electric is about $150,000, $160,000 a year. So much more significant number that we're working from. A couple of other items, you know, to be discussed is, you know, we've included the 10% increase in the cost of healthcare in our budget. It's about $91,000 by itself. We've included a 3.5% pay increase in here. The dollar allocations on those would come up a little over $100,000 for that piece. So whenever you start looking at all of our costs and all of the items that we've included and excluded, and we've included all of those on the memo for you, but that's kind of the summary of what you're going to hear us talk about today, where you're going to see us go. The big discussion point usually revolves around these capital projects and the extra add-on items. I'm not trying to turn my back to you, but the extra add-on items that we're going to add and take care of this year. And so, you know, as we go down that road and as we look at it, we'll get the department heads to talk about their part. Mary's going to have some input on those things. But I'd like to start out on page 1. Under the first tab, page 1 is the summary of the budget. You know, this is what is required. This is what we have to present. In looking at this and in looking at where we are, you know, this is a very simple rule for the columns represent the different funds that we have and we have been required to budget under. You know, as you roll across the beginning budget balance, That is the expendable funds we have available. Think of it as cash on hand that we have not appropriated, that we have not committed to other projects already, that we can include for expenditures in this year's budget. Revenues, it's the money coming in, and based, as we talked, the general fund, 90% of our reoccurring revenues are budgeted there. Likewise, the expenses are what we expect going out, and so you'll see them in the net change column. Our goal in that net change column is between the general fund and what is listed as the utility fund there. We want that number to be a positive number. That we consider to be a balanced budget at this point. Every other fund that's listed there is effectively a restricted fund, and its sole purpose at the end of the day is to be $0. We don't want an increase. We don't want, if we have cash sitting in there, those cashes are set aside as restricted funds and need to be spent at some time and in some form, to get us out. So as we look at those net changes, the two net changes that I am most concerned about, Meredith for sure is most concerned about, and Mary would be that net change column, because we want those, we want those numbers to net out to zero. At least zero, if not a positive, so that we can tell you all that we have a balanced budget. As you can see, this budget here, right now has about $130,000 worth of surplus that we're going to look at allocating. We're going to talk about, which projects we want to do or what other additional capital outlay we need to do to go ahead and allocate that $130,000. If you run down below, there's a couple of in the special revenue funds themselves, the cemetery, the general cemetery fund has always been a restricted fund here, and likewise the cemetery care fund. The cemetery care fund is actually restricted by state statute. We have to set aside 12.5% of all lot sales to fund that piece, and so as you can see, we've accumulated some funds in it. In the memo, you'll notice that we have said, this year we are going to transfer over that $120,000 that's in there, and so next year, for operations of the cemetery as required by the perpetual care fund. I mean, it's legal in what we're doing, but next year those funds aren't going to be there. We've only budgeted, going into that fund, about less than $5,000 a year in new revenues. So these are monies that have accumulated over time. We did this so that we will have operating funds and we will have money in there to operate. The next two funds, the limited purpose sales tax fund that you see listed there, that is the fund that we use to account for the 1 1/4 cent sales tax dedicated to the payment of debt on the Lake McMurtry line. So that we can't spend it on anything else. You will see that amount continue to increase, and that continued increase is going to be set aside, and hopefully whenever it gets up high enough, we'll make the last payment on the bonds out of whatever's there, and it will all go away. But that money does increase. The other one is the street sales tax, and the street sales tax, that 1 penny sales tax has been committed to pay for to repay the bonds for the about $4 million project we did on street overlays and everything. That sales tax expires in 2018 along with debt, and so it will go away. But we do have some accumulation of funds there, about $257,000. Of that $257,000, we've talked about, and it'll come up a little later. We can probably spend up to about $150 of that on current year expenses. I want to keep a reserve fund in there so that whenever we have to finish paying those bonds, that we for sure have enough money. But likewise, we have had some excess collections over what we were projecting. Our budget this year is also showing an excess in it, and so in talking and looking at it, I think we'd be comfortable with about $150,000 maybe coming out of that. Now, those funds that come out of that have to be used for street projects. We can't use them in any other department of the city. They have to be, and they are dedicated to the streets. So we need to make sure we set those aside. But that is the other number that's there that we could talk about and look at. So all in all, bottom line, at the end of the day right now, you guys can walk out and adopt this budget, we can go down the road, and as far as budget compliance, everything would be good. Problem is, we've left quite a few projects out of this budget and out of these numbers that are related to department requests of things that really need to go on and we need to cover. Before we get into the details on those departments and what they are, Mary, anything that you want to add?
I think you've pretty well covered it.
Okay, all right. I'm not gonna ask Meredith if she has anything to add, because I know she'd have something to say. You know what, let me flip you back to a couple of the back tabs, just so you guys know what's in there. We're gonna mainly be talking about tab 2. Tab 3 is just the fee schedules and the rate schedules, so that you guys have at your disposal in your fingers all of those numbers and what's going on. Again, we're not gonna talk about that in depth today, but that's informational piece so that you guys have it. The next tab is the debt service tab. This tab is just a copy of the audit footnote. We just took the footnote right out of the audit so that you guys could see what the outstanding liabilities are. And so you can run down those note payables as they existed June 30th, 2013. So that piece is there for you all to look at. And then the very back section was actually what we received from the department heads, what Mary and Meredith, and I guess I had some oversight on it, but sat down and compiled all of these numbers from and worked directly out of, so that we make sure those things are there. So the department heads might be referring back to their tabs. They are kind of in order based on how the departments go down through the city. So hopefully as we start going through those pieces, we can talk about them a little bit. If you would, for me right now, flip and look at page, just earmark for me, page 9. We will talk about page 9, 10, 11, and 12. These are those capital project requests that I told you, and I guess 13. And likewise, we'll get to the PMA here in a minute, so go ahead and flag page 17, just so you can kind of flip back and forth, 17 and 18, yes. So that you can flip back and forth as we talk about these departments. In the past, we've talked about cafeteria plans. We've done it numerous ways. I hope this year that as we do it like this, we can kind of look at those pieces and cover what's there as they are. If we need to go back and help you guys present some other things, we'd be happy to do that. So starting on page 3, these columns, again, the columns that are on this workbook and are here are the columns that the Municipal Budget Act requires us to have. I didn't choose what columns we showed to you, and matter of fact, we could show more columns if you all thought that would be helpful. But what is required is we have to show you the prior year actual, which is the very first column of numbers that you see. So this was what effectively you saw in the audit for June 30th, 2013. We have to show you the amended budget for this year that we're currently operating under. Kind of effectively, this is what we adopted last year, with a few of the budget amendments that we've had to pick up this year. Then the third column across there is estimated actual. So the estimated actual is based on what we have done through 9 months, and then we just annualize that number. We have not taken into account if there are any excessive budget appropriations that have not been utilized yet. We just ran it off kind of a simple roll forward projection number. For instance that we haven't included in that estimated actual that is a potential liability setting out there would be the remaining balance of our GAP plan that we have for health insurance. If you're looking under the general government, and this came up, so I want to make sure I at least explain this part for a second. If you consider the fact that we have the GAP insurance plan that kind of makes up the difference between what was budgeted or what we've put for our health insurance deductible and what we've tried to effectively make our health insurance deductible. We have that GAP plan that covers that part. Right now we have a little over a $50,000 unexpended GAP reserve set in there. There is the potential that sometime in the last quarter of this year that fund could be expended. We haven't taken that into account whenever I'm projecting that $690,000. That's probably the most significant number of all those, but I want to make sure I say that, because when we do those estimates and when we roll those out, we're just trying to roll out if expenditures continued how they were this year, this is where it looks like we would be. The revenues, like I said, you see a star there in the proposed budget column, which is really the column that we're talking about today. We're going to be talking about this proposed budget. Those are the numbers that we can change, that we will change. Matter of fact, Meredith's here so she can do them on the fly instead of having to do them afterwards. And we'll have revised numbers for you guys ready to go Monday night for the public hearing. As we go out, they'll go out in the packet. Hopefully, well, they'll be emailed tomorrow so they can go out.
Our hearing is until June 2nd.
Oh, June 2nd.
Yeah.
Oh, okay. All right. In my mind, I have them for Monday night. June 2nd. So, heck,
Oh,
we've
that's
got.
my council meeting. Can we make it Monday night? So it's Russ's council?
All right, public hearing on June 2nd. So we'll for sure have those done by that point. I don't know why I thought we were rushing around
I don't know.
for that. Oh, well, easier on me. There you go. You'll get Meredith to take care of that one. So yeah, budget revenues are setting there. Let's start down the departments and kind of talk about where they are. The general government department, is the city itself. Kind of what goes on in City Hall, what goes on behind the scenes. Overall, big expenditures that you see down under other charges and services, in particular, is all of our insurance costs. We do not allocate insurance costs out to each of the departments, so you will see a significant number in there under other charges and services, and that's why you see that number where it is. The overall, the salaries and wages allocations are there. We'll be happy to answer any questions, but really at this point, Mary, are you going to talk about capital outlay, or is Dixie going to talk about capital?
Dixie is.
Dixie's going to talk about capital outlay. Let's talk about, kind of the capital outlay piece. If you flip to page 9, likewise, the first set of expenditures there that you see on page 9 are related to the capital outlay for for City Hall and for what is there. Again, let me explain the schedule just for a second. The first column there is proposed budget for this year. Those numbers that you see in that column are included in our overall expenses that we've already talked about. The numbers in the second column are optional projects. Mary and Meredith, and with a little bit of input from everybody else, kind of sat down and went through, and in order to make this budget balanced, said these are the necessities, the things that we feel right now have to be in there. That's what you see in the first column. Second column are the things that the department has requested additionally that have not been included. So with that, Dixie, I'll let you talk about those projects and kind of where we are on this year's budget. Where you are.
It's up to you. If you want to stay where you are.
Okay, I'll stay where I am. The rest of the department heads can go to the podium.
We're real close to the podium now.
Okay, just real quick.
You don't want to turn your back to the
That's
department heads,
right. I'm keeping my front to everybody. First item we have listed there is roof repair. As you will see, that is a carryover from last year. Part of the reason is the electric lines were laying on top of the roof at City Hall. We couldn't get a roofer to touch it. So then the first order of business became, we have to move the electric lines. That is a problem when we're open, that we can't have our electric down. So we've worked with local electricians. They've done, it has to be done a step at a time. They've worked on it, they've done some. We have a date of June the 7th and 8th, which is a weekend, a Saturday and Sunday, that they should finish it. So moving the electric lines will be completed in this current fiscal year. Then we'll be ready to go out and take bids to actually do the roof. And for those of you that are newer, the reason that it is so imperative we do the roof is we leak. And that's really not good. Every time there's, especially snow and it sets on the roof, it comes through my light fixtures right into on my desk, but it comes in numerous places in City Hall. So that's the reason it wasn't completed this year and why we need the roof.
So is that money already appropriated for that?
It was
Or do we have to put
appropriated
it on
in-
the other budget?
Well, we will let that appropriation lapse at the end of the year.
Okay.
So that's why we're rebudgeting it in this year's number.
Okay. The request for renovation of the kitchen area, we all know it's an extremely old building. I'm sure the kitchen area is original. We have the refrigerator there, the freezer does not stay cold, we can't have ice. The refrigerator itself does not stay as cold as it should. The microwave is one of the old ones with the dial, really, really old. We have a lot of employees that like to bring their lunch to work, and that's what they're trying to deal with. A refrigerator that doesn't keep their food cold enough to be safe, and then a microwave that they stick it in and they burn their food. Because we just don't have good facilities there. The kitchen sink is actually an old bathroom sink that's really tiny. You can't hardly wash dishes in it. It's just not a good environment for employees. And we would really appreciate it if we could have some updated facilities in the kitchen area. The item that I listed about new carpet, that I didn't even get a price on it because I knew that we can't do everything in 1 year. I just want you to be aware that the current carpet is very old, very frayed, torn. We have it taped down in several areas. There's holes in it. It's a tripping hazard, but we know we can't do everything, so we kind of like to do the kitchen. That'll just probably be on the radar for next year's carpeting. Now, as far as the council upgrades, things down here, the conference room chairs, of course, we're talking about the conference room right back here. When we started, we had 12 chairs. We now have 5, so many of them have broken. That room is primarily used for attorney-defendant communications during court. It's also used sometimes for planning commission, police interviews, whenever it's needed for various things. We're having an employee health wellness event coming up. It'll be used for that. It would be definitely nice to have some better chairs that weren't broken in there. Let's see, what was the next thing on the list? The shade for the west windows. We're talking about these windows right here. And the reason being, the people on that side of the room know that they have sun in their eyes. The people on this side know that it gets really hot over here, the council meetings in the summer. That was a suggestion that I think you all might appreciate because of your experience in here. We've gotten a quote, and it'd be a roll-down shade that would be here on the inside. It would look nice. So it would also help with the glare on pen.
Tyson's back there.
Yes. And as well as the energy efficiency in here. So those are the requests that we have from the general government, city hall requests. Then on I'm back here in the back part, so I'm talking about the next page. Really, these all came from Joel. These are the software and hardware upgrades that we need. I think he gave you a pretty good explanation of it here. I'm not the techie. If you have any questions about any of it, I will be more than happy to contact Joel and try to get you the answers you need.
On those kind of things, do we ever get bids or get other opinions
On
on
the
that?
technology,
Well, he does, before we purchase any of the equipment, he does check prices with numerous vendors. Sometimes you're locked in on the vendor that you need to use if you're replacing something that's a component of a bigger system, you're pretty well locked in. But he does check prices. He's very frugal, and he does document very well whenever he presents the information and the requests. So, I feel like he does a good job of researching and making sure that what he presents is what we really need.
Or is he buying them from somebody else?
Yes, it's purchased through, he goes through the city, he works with Sarah, and I sign off on everything before it's ever ordered. He does not place the order without my approval.
he's got quotes on a lot of these items back here in the documentation.
From Dell and from
Matrix Force,
Force.
Dell. Any other questions?
Next would be streets. And I would ask Mr. Harmon to come forward. But while he's on his way up here, you'll notice that there are a number of street and alley projects on this list, and they're all in the optional column. This list could probably have been twice as long or probably 3 times as long, but obviously we know that we don't have the money to spend on the projects, and we really would like to have maybe some council discussion on where you would like to see the money go. And let me say one more thing before you start. I know Eagle Lane and Fairway have been on this budget request for a number of years. I don't know how many. 4 or 5.
4 or 5.
4 or 5 years. And that subdivision, you know, was accepted into the city by a former council, not the same council here, but it was accepted into the city with the streets not up to standard. But when that acceptance was made, it was a commitment to the property owners in that subdivision to maintain the streets. And if you've been out there, they're horrible. And I would think it's time to take care of Eagle Lane and Fairway if we can afford it. But if you haven't driven out there, it's turned to rock. I mean, it's just pulverized, and it's now rock, and it's not a hard surface. So so that's my 2 cents worth before Mr. Harmon even gets started. So.
Thank you, Mary. And I would say that the part that turned into rock was probably a portion of that just prior before it turned to mud, because we had some of that out there as well. What we've done, we've got 2 different quotes on Eagle Lane itself. We've got from Fairway north, and then from Fairway going south. So if we should want to do both of these at the same time, and there would be a slight reduction in the overall cost of about $20,000 roughly. It's to the point where it really can't be overlaid and do very much good. It's going to have to be taken out and just redone. It's going to have the base redone, and then build the curbing that needs to be added to that, rebuilt, and then put the asphalt on top of that. Fairway still has an opportunity that it can be overlaid and get several more years out of it without having to take it completely out. So from what I've seen around town at this point in time, Eagle Lane certainly is among the worst of the streets that we have to contend with. There's some other streets that we do have on here. We can go down them just in order if you'd like, I guess.
Sure.
We have the alleyway from Delaware to Elm, east of 7th Street. This particular one is for delivery trucks. A lot of those are delivery vehicles. This is an old asphalt and brick street. So because the majority of our alleys around the city itself, we're trying to rebuild those with asphalt millings that we've got from a couple of different projects. But these are higher traffic, they have water flow issues. We need to get in and try to salvage those as good as we can, and they're past the point of salvage, so they're going to have to be rebuilt. Make sure we have the drainage correct on that, and also to just take it out and redo it properly. Rather than overlay, they'll be rebuilt on it. Also, the alley that runs west behind the comeback, which would tie in with the one that we just talked about, and also would tie in with the new one that's behind the 611 Fake House. So that entire section would be basically new alleyways. That would just leave a couple of alleys left on the north side of the square that aren't as bad as the rest of these are. They could be on this if that's what you folks would like to do, but I didn't deem that to be necessary at this point in time, but this is up for discussion. We've talked about Eagle Lane, the north half and south half, and also the Fairway overlay. In addition to those, I have south boundary rebuild. Yes?
On the Fairway overlay,
Mm-hmm.
would crack sealing out there give us any more times before we'd have to do an overlay on that?
You know, I would have said yes last year, but with this weather we had this winter, the rain that came in and then froze, we have more than a crack. I mean, we have just
We have
just a
gator back going on out there.
significant, just that whole width
Okay.
is going to have to be addressed.
But we'd want to mill it and overlay it too, would we not? So we don't fill up our gutter, or is paving higher than the gutter
That wasn't the way that this was
put
quoted.
together? Okay.
That doesn't mean it can't be done in that way, but that's not the way it was quoted.
Okay. I'm just thinking off the top of my head some options there. Because was a well-built street, but it's just been let go too long. I'm in favor of overlaying, but I'm more in favor of milling and overlaying, because you can drive down a number of streets in in a lot of communities, and you see the asphalt almost to the top of the curb. That's because they didn't mill. And then that defeats your drainage purposes. It gives you a lot of issues later. I think if we choose this street, we'd want to look at a mill and overlay, at least 1.5 inch, 2-inch mill and overlay to rehab the street and not just cover it up. So you're just covering up your problem. You're not doing any really.
And Gordon, I may have spoke out of turn on this. There is taper milling to the toe of the gutter, so there is a little bit on both sides of that, so it doesn't want to be higher than what the gutter itself
Then you
is.
put a tack coat on top of that, and that seals most of your cracks when you put that tack coat on there, and then you put your overlay on. Thanks, that's good.
South boundary, rebuild it from 12th Street to 15th Street. Most everyone that's driven that knows that it's coming to pieces.
It's a roller coaster.
Not a lot of good section left on any of that. And then if we should want to do that and want to go ahead and complete that from 11th Street on to 12th Street and just connect all, that would make entire southbound from 11th to 15th would be done. And 11th to 12th would be an overlay rather than a complete rebuild on it, because it's not near as bad a condition as the rest of that. A section of Ivanhoe Street, 3rd Street to 4th Street, I know that seems a little bit weird to have just a piece out of Ivanhoe, but the rest of Ivanhoe is not in this condition, and I think if we need to try and salvage what we've got there in a point in the future. Ivanhoe as a whole is going to have to be looked at, but there's not a lot to work with on Ivanhoe on between 3rd and 4th Street. So I would suggest that we take that piece and try to salvage it as well as we can, and then get some more years out of it. And at the right point in time, we'll get more of Ivanhoe. The alley beside the Chevrolet garage, there's been some discussion from different ones about trying to make that better. It gets a lot of traffic, particularly when the trains are stopped. We have a lot of traffic going up and down that street. There's not anything to work with now as far as trying to just put more asphalt in potholes, because it's just coming apart. It needs to be addressed.
Well, that alley is kind of a thoroughfare for those trying to go around signal lights or go around railroad, when the railroad stopped up. And I know a lot of people drive that instead of going through the signals on 6th Street. They'll take the alley to try and beat signals. So it's been used by a number of us to avoid lights for a long time. Again, that's another one that's probably been bad for 10 years. And you guys just been having to patch it up.
Yeah, we've just gonna have patches on patches, and it's obvious that it's not working very well right now. Then we have 8th Street, which is on the east side of the high school, from Elm to Fir. The north half of that is really deteriorated, and a lot of that is due to this past year's winter. The south half of that block is not as bad. I don't think there's value in just doing half of the block. Street sweeper. We might want to talk about street sweeper just a little bit. We had that in this year's budget to purchase a street sweeper. I think we had about $65,000 allocated for that. For a new machine. We have found a machine that we went and looked at today, actually, in Colorado. Had my mechanic go this morning early, got out there around 2 o'clock. We seldom see a good used street sweeper. And the one that we looked at is like what we have, only it's a 2001 model. It had 900 and some hours on it. It came from the Denver airport as a trade-in on other equipment, so it ended up in a yard. And we found it online, went and looked at it, and it's a rarity to find anything that you can find in a way with a sweeper that has any life left in it. But this machine served us well for years and years, and we intend to bring it back and put it into use. So we'll have something that actually has floorboards in it, which is different than what we have today. It has heat and air in it.
That's not so you can see the street while you're sleeping.
Yeah, so you can see if you missed anything.
Does it actually sweep or does it do like this one does and it just pushes it everywhere?
Well, this wore out thing that we've got does just what you said, Betty. This one will work more like you would like for Street Sweeper to work. Now, it's not a regenerative air truck mounted style like I think there's been some discussion on. And one of the reasons behind that is it's hard to find a good one of those also. And they work kind of like a vacuum sweeper. If you don't have a nice flat surface, you really don't accomplish very much with a nice regenerative air type of machine. And this one that we've got now works good in the gutters, it works good around the 16th celebration. We have things to pick up around the square that we don't usually have to pick up.
Well, I heard people complain that it looks like a tornado going down because it's throwing dirt everywhere, so.
Well, the one that we're using right now doesn't have any water to it, so you can't keep the dust down at all. The one that we were gonna bring back does have a water system on it, so it will help keep the dust down. Shouldn't be as much of an issue. But the one we have now is like the dust devil when you get in it. It's as dusty for the operators as it is for the patrons.
And the price on that used one?
The price on the used one was delivered was $10,685.
Wow.
But it should serve us well for that money.
Good job, Sam.
Well, I thought you would-
Plus, it's the similar body style, so we'll be able to keep the old one and part out. You know, if there's things that we need to take off of it, should be able to be used
Very true.
on the one that we're getting.
Very
so.
true. It has a lot of similar pieces on it.
How old is the one we got?
Well, it's a mid-80s model, made out of a couple of different ones that's been put together, and
It's been parties.
so I don't know how old the oldest piece on it is, but principally, well, it's somewhere around an 85 model. Also have a request to get rid of a half-ton 1992 Chevrolet pickup that is just a pickup style vehicle. We'd like to have a flatbed and a 3/4 ton, which is a lot more conducive to us for hauling gravel, asphalt, working off the back of it.
Yeah.
You just really can't put much of a load when you're talking about cold mix or gravel on a half ton. And if you see this, which I think there are some pictures in there, you can see it has limited paint on it, and we're about to the point of putting buckets in instead of seats, so we have something to sit on. But I don't think it looks good for the city of Perry to have this piece of equipment running around. It just looks terrible. Had a request from Farm Bureau board members that they'd like to have a sidewalk put in from 5th Street to the dollar store. Should we want to do that? Well, for the materials, so I've got the number in there, $2,000 to cover that. Grapple bucket for our John Deere.
Are they willing to cost share that, or do you know?
We haven't got that deep into the
Yeah,
discussion.
I think they are, but they've noticed how much pedestrian traffic there is from the east, people going to the dollar store, and so they just mentioned that, and I think they'd be willing to cost share, like if we would do the labor that they may be willing to pay at least part, and maybe all of the materials. But it's on a state highway, so we will need to coordinate through ODOT and get their approval. It would have to meet their standards, so. So I think it would be a good, a good project to undertake where we could do, in cooperation with the Farm Bureau.
Well, I just prepared a cost estimate for the city of Stroud for some sidewalks and a street, 4th Street in Stroud. And the going rate right now for a square yard of 4-inch sidewalk is $40. So if we can get this built for $4,000, that'd be our cost in materials and our own labor, then we're way, way money ahead. And, because sidewalk is just going up and up and up every day. It's not, that's a good price. If they're willing to help with that cost, man, that's great. Thank you. Go ahead, Sam, I'm sorry to interrupt.
All right, grapple bucket for a front end loader. This is the one that we use out at the transfer station to pick up pallets, pick up brush. And it gets a lot of wear. We've welded it and re-welded it. And it's to the point that we don't have a lot to work with as far as welding on top of welds. So I requested a replacement for that bucket, which let us keep going with that transfer station, try to keep it.
Yeah, that's the new one.
It's well, I don't know how we cannot go ahead and fund that just because what I have now is not repairable. Street signs.
Can you get a heavier one?
I'm looking into that. Right, I've got a couple of different ones that I've looked at, as well as one that's just like what we've got. But my number is still gonna be good. Street sign, just to let us go ahead and continue to replace street signs as needed, and not be out on a limb as far as not having funds to take care of that.
I have a question. I had some complaints about the street signs we put in down on Fur and 6th Street. They say that when they drive up there, they can't see it.
Street lights.
The street light, yeah.
Yeah, the street
We
light.
discussed
Signal
that.
lights.
Signal light.
Now, this is just for the
This is the
street signs themselves.
The main
so-
signs.
Okay,
This-
I'm just wondering if we can, I know we,
I'll be more than happy to go over with that, you just here in a little bit,
okay,
clear that up.
all right.
We're going back to white line.
And last, there's a crane thrown on the back for a mechanic's utility truck. We don't have a way of picking up anything that has any weight to it at all. It should have been done a long time ago, and before we get anybody hurt, still need to consider doing that. Any questions about any of this? Thank you.
Sam, before you leave, what's your number one priority for your need? Number one,
Other than streets.
other than streets. You've got your sweeper taken care of. Give me the number one priorities of your last items below that street sweeper. I'm gonna hold you to it. I just wanted to know.
I think from the standpoint of safety, we need that crane.
Okay.
Well, and also on the streets, you've got all of these listed. Isn't probably this road out here the number one priority?
About 8.
Yeah, because of the police and fire and the school. I mean, isn't that probably number one?
It's adjacent to the east side of the high school, so it wouldn't go as far south as the fire department or the police station.
Yeah,
It'd
I'm
just
just,
be that one block.
there's a lot of their
It is.
traffic, a lot of high school traffic.
That was my concern, is the
Yeah.
high school traffic. Having it looking more aesthetically pleasing for we have a lot of outside people that come to our city to go to school events. Get that taken care of, but it's just to the point of deterioration that a simple overlay won't take care of it. Next year will be worse. But I would have to say, in my own mind, Clayton, that Eagle Lane is by far the work.
It's pretty bad.
Well, I
I
have
know.
to, I have to kind of recluse myself on that.
I would have to say the lines of work.
But one thing to consider on that, though, is the width of those streets. I don't know if you've included that in your bid.
No, it'll be to continue with what we have.
Okay. Because they're not as wide as our.
Not as wide as the standard.
Right. And that's a can of worms.
It's not good. Thank you, Sam.
You're welcome.
I would just like to point out before Mary moves on to all the other department heads, that Sam was very good in his department request and cut out $200,000. Now, I'm just hoping that as the rest of the department heads stand up here and do that,
I thought it'd carry over and help us.
that we were gonna cut out $200,000. Just thought I'd say, you know.
Ryan, we'll talk about that.
I'll be interested in that.
Brenda, Parks is next, like,
I've been working, so don't look how I'm dressed. Okay, basically, my stuff is a lot to do with Century Park. I need all of the light poles, the roofs in the pavilion, the restroom facilities, and all the barrier poles repainted. They're getting really bad, really bad. I requested 4 steel doors with new hinges. They informed me that if I didn't replace the one hinge, especially on the women's restroom, due to the fact that we had issues with, because it was just at a closure, it didn't have a doorknob at the time that they installed these, it would bang. People wouldn't shut them and they would bang, so we messed up the hinges on it. But he definitely said I needed a piano style hinge on it. We could still use the frames and I'll paint them myself. I would like 5 benches around the walking track. Right now they're plastic. Most of them are missing parts. I tried to contact the company. It could not. They don't sell any parts or anything for these, but they're just plastic type thing. The other item I asked for is called a walk-behind vacuum. What it does is it looks like just like a lawnmower type thing, and I could do all the, say, around the curbs, around the square, up on the sidewalks. It actually even goes through, you can push it through the grass. It picks up small debris, cigarette butts, which is a big, I mean, we spend hours raking around the pavilions and picking up cigarette butts alone, and then small sticks. That was one item I'd asked for. The other item I had asked for is a fence, net, and stuff at the softball field. This was requested by one of our coaches that we hire, is Brian Hayes. He, on that number 2 field, some of the poles are really, really getting bad, and we've even, due to the length of it, we've had to join them together on the backstops. So it's not, at this time, it's not like a safety issue, but probably within a year it will be. But they had paid for number 1, and he said, on number 1 field, and he said, we do not have the money. So I said, I will put in for it. Don't know if we can do it this year. It's not something that, you know, we would have to do this year. We would have to do this year. But in the future, we're either going to have to maybe request them to maybe help us pay for some of it, or us replace it. We have been working really hard at the ball fields, so that's about it.
Do you need anybody to help you? How are you with staff?
Oh, personnel? Yes, I need personnel. Yes. We are a little shy on that one. Yeah, hopefully in time. I would like to have maybe one more, a full-time employee. I would like to have a full-time employee. I have one now, but she does part-time meter reading, so, you know, like tomorrow she starts doing that. So it kind of pulls it away. And
So are you the only one who does
No, well, I got a couple of summer boys that are coming, about the 19th. And then I have Dylan that works, another one that works about 29 hours during school and that kind of stuff. I've got him. But we're really getting a good staff for the swimming pool. I'm very pleased with that. Real good staff. So that's going to take a lot of load off of me, is when as soon as we get the lifeguards going and stuff. And we do have the pool painted as of this today. We finished it off. So, but we worked till 8 o'clock last night trying to get the deep in. We were worried about the rain coming in, and if you don't get it painted, it fills back up with it, and you got to pump all that out again. But we got it. And really, I think it looks pretty good. I would ask everybody to go by. Kudos on it, but that's about it. Anybody has any questions?
A full-time employee, can we guess just about how much the yearly cost of an employee would be?
Oh, it's usually we usually start at about $10 an hour.
Okay.
So something like that.
About $45,000 with benefits.
Okay.
Okay, about 2.5 times payroll, a little less. Thank you, Britt.
Okay,
Appreciate it.
thank you.
Library. Next on the list.
And she didn't cut out enough money.
Brenda didn't cut out any. But she didn't tell you anyway.
Oh,
No,
You what?
we're just
She didn't
bragging.
cut out
each
any
other.
money, we were just harassing her.
I didn't count it. No, I didn't.
I'm-
Not this. I did last year.
Oh.
I gave money back.
Yes, that's true.
You better.
I can't believe you can buy one of those goats for $1,282. That's a good price.
Well,
Because I bought one once. They're expensive.
that's what he priced me at. Now you can get all kinds of neat attachments, but this is the basic, and really that's all we need is basic.
Cool.
You know. Basic.
Sorry, go ahead.
Real quickly, before she speaks, especially for Clayton and for Tim, as you're going down through the library, you're gonna see books broken out as a separate line, based on some historical practices and things that are there. We have the Thelma Brown Trust money that come in, and so every year we go ahead and budget specifically, and we make sure that we show it in our budget now. It hadn't been, a decade ago they weren't doing this, but we've been doing it as long as I've been here, breaking out those books. So you'll see that as kind of a separate line item, specifically broken out. We don't group it in with materials and supplies or other charges or capital outlay, because they're all, 15, 20, 30. She buys some expensive books too, but that one is broken out. So as you're running down the list back on page 3, looking at those object line items that I was talking about, that's why you see the one that says TV books.
Hi. The first thing we asked for is for part of the roof to be replaced and part of the roof to be repaired. On the original part of the library, there are missing tiles, and we need for those to be replaced. On the addition to the library, it's a rubber roof. And I'm not really into construction, but I know that the sun has cooked the rubber roof, and it's time for the rubber roof to be replaced. There is leaking into the workroom, and we've warped a countertop, and there's an electrical strip all along that wall, and we did get a good estimate for $9,400. Sam did confirm with me that that roof has needed replacing for years. We requested new carpeting in the library. There are spots on the stairs where we are literally down to the backing. There is no carpet left. And it's the carpet from when they did the new addition. So the carpet is more than 20 years old. And eventually the carpet's gonna get holes in it. Right now there are not holes, but when you're down to the backing, there's not a whole lot more left to give. The Progress Club has hinted very strongly that they would be happy to help us pay for some of the carpet, and they do have the funding. So, it's very nice that the Progress Club would be happy to chip in on the carpeting. I requested 15 additional hours a week in hourly staffing. That wouldn't be used every week. That would be used like next week when Linda Branson is on vacation to, school's out and we're trying to cover two floors and keep them both staffed at all times for safety.
On your roof, did you go out for
Yes.
bids?
A bit. DeGraff and Reed.
Well, the only thing I'm wondering about is that's a historical building and we got a tile roof. I don't want to run our tile roof because then it's capable of getting grants because it is historical. And I think we need to look at the roof. I mean, I think we need to fix the roof, but I'm not sure if we need to make sure it's done properly.
It's the roof that's on the new addition. It's
But
not
so-
the
said some of the
tiles.
tiles
It's
are-
not the tiles.
Some of the tiles do need to be replaced.
Right, but they'd be replaced.
Replaced,
So
correct.
we still have the tile roof.
Oh, yes, we would still have a tile
Yeah,
roof.
yeah. We'll
I'm
go
just
back
saying-
with what's there.
I'm just saying that I think tile roofs would be very hard for just anybody to roof. I think we need to make sure we got somebody that's gonna know how to do that.
I think DeGraff and Reed indicated they can. Actually, I had another company at the library, and they looked at the rubber roof, and they said they would prefer not to bid. So I think DeGraff and Reed, in my limited experience, they said they could do it. And we would be happy to try to get other estimates as well, if you would prefer.
No, I mean, that's fine, I'm just worried about the tile roof. That's all.
Any questions? They're letting you off easy.
Thank you.
Oh, Gordon's.
Oh, I might also say that if you wanna work through the Main Street,
Mhm.
they have historical architects who might be able to help you with the roof and
Okay.
get the answers before you actually take on that tile roof.
Okay. Thank you.
All right.
Don't get too far. So your total request, your total request is for, darn it, I lost my piece from the scale.
Page 10.
Yeah. The total
Oh, only
request was,
17, I'm sorry, yeah.
for the capital items, is $16,200 is the total request. And then in addition to that,
That's
an additional 15 hours per week for a part-time,
That is the 6,500.
No, we didn't fully fund the carpet project. The carpet project was 13,000 something. And so, what's included in the numbers that you're seeing
Mhm.
would be the upstairs and
Not the downstairs.
and the stairs, and not the downstairs. And then we would look to do that, next year, hopefully.
I was just trying to
Or
get a handle on
unless
the
the
cost
Progress
for
Club
the,
comes through, with more money, then,
yeah.
But at least, but the worst is the upstairs,
Right.
and that's where we wanna focus our money.
I just trying to get a handle on the cost of the staffing. What are we thinking that's going to end up being? If we consider them, you're gonna consider.
$14,266.
$14,260. Thank you. Thank you for reminding me of the page there, Betty. I was flipping to 17. Next.
Economic development, let me just
Oh,
hit that
okay.
just for a second.
If you would.
As we're running down, of course, we don't have any capital outlay directly related to economic development piece. We have Main Street, we have the chamber both budgeted in to the economic development under their contract, and then we have the repayment on the bond, the debt service on the bond, and then debt service back to the electric capital. So those are all the pieces that we have budgeted in. They're just our standard month in and month out expenses and the prior contracts that we already had with Main Street and with the chamber, assuming that we were going to continue to fund those at the same level. And then, of course, the bond payments that we've already committed to. So nothing new or exciting to do there.
So how much is that altogether?
$371,000. Yeah, let me go ahead and take that. And I know we're kind of jumping back and forth, but ballparks don't necessarily have a capital outlay item this year. We have left, based on the estimated numbers, for maintenance and operation and upkeep, knowing that it being a first year, there's going to be potentially more costs going into just getting fields ready and those kind of things, to have playables and that. So we've gone ahead and budgeted the $50,000 this year in. I know it's a little higher than what he talked about the other night whenever he was here, but I want to make sure that getting started, we have plenty. Playables. Get it playable. Yeah, playable side of it. Don't you like that word?
I liked it, that's why.
Come on.
Would,
You're trying to figure out how you're gonna be able to use it in your.
Yeah, I know.
no,
I want to use it. So I remember.
Meredith gave me a list of words for the night, and she said, $1 if you get this word included in some place, $5 for this one, and I'll buy dinner if you get this one in. Now, I haven't got the dinner yet, but I am at $5,
You're
just so
getting
you know.
close. You're getting.
Buzzwords, exactly. Playables, it's a word for you to use.
Next would be municipal court.
I'm not done.
Oh, okay, I'm sorry. Hold on.
I'm not done. I'm sorry.
Back to the library.
No, back to
Economic development.
economic development.
Page 10.
Oh, okay.
Pardon?
Page 10.
Page 4.
Well, it's
I've
in
got
the
page
back.
4.
Oh, okay.
Page 4 is where economic development.
Where we have 50,000 in there, would that include things like, could that include things like we have at the other ballpark for the screening needs and for the stuff like that?
Yeah.
It would cover Brenda's activities out there. Because that's something we committed to the people. We were not gonna forget our fields out there. So if we're putting 50,000 in here,
But this is economic development.
I understand. I'm just trying to make sure we have it covered.
It's in the budget. Everything the budget, that
I
Brenda
understand.
requested is in the budget.
I know, but if we have more than enough money here, then we might be able to say
Good.
what she's, that's all I'm trying to point out. If we can.
Yeah.
I
The last
wanna
thing
make
we want to
sure.
do is not have enough there to cover it and they look like
Right,
crap.
That's
right.
And I think that's what Gordon is wanting to make sure, and I agree 100%.
I mean, Brenda has offered up that, it could be deferred possibly a year, announced at the softball field, but,
I've seen them, I think they ought to be done.
well, and we have money in the budget to do it, so.
All right, now, Chamber of Commerce and Main Street, you covered those, didn't you already?
I think so. They're, basically, they're requesting, both entities, we contract for services, with the Chamber of Commerce and with, Main Street. And, they're currently budgeted at $36,000, which is $3,000 a month, is what's paid to each entity. And they're requesting that amount, be continued, in the amount of $36,000. And that money is included in the budget, proposed budget.
Thank you. Our good judge.
Thank you all for including me this year. I've been here 5 years, and this is my first experience with this. I believe that we're asking for some very important things this year. One of the things that we're asking for under capital outlay is to install a security glass front here at the court clerk's front window, so that when people come up, they have a tendency to lean in There have been times that there have been individuals come up that get mad and try to come across it at Sue, our clerk. She also has papers that people could reach over and get. And so we're just asking for that security measure. We do not have an estimate yet. I think we've called looking for one and they haven't gotten back with us, but I would imagine with no bigger than that area is that, you know, $1,500 would probably cover it. I could be wrong, but we are asking for shatterproof safety glass where if somebody decides to hit it or something, it won't shatter all over her.
Would a window like the banks use, was that the kind of thing you're looking at? Where you have a little slot where you can slide?
No, we don't want that.
You don't want that?
No. We want it to come up high enough that people can put things underneath.
Okay.
I think if we did the, with the slot, we would end up spending a lot more money. We want something very simple. We're not asking that go all the way to the top, that it, we have a space at the top and a space at the bottom. That way we can hear people and talk. We're not even really asking for something with a little vent in it where you can speak through. Just something very simple, just for her.
Well, laminated glass would provide the safety you want because it's built like a windshield and it won't shatter back on you or them.
Okay. And
Would a taser work? I think they got some
You know,
extra ones.
really, I would like to have a big metal detector out here at the door that everybody has to go through. But as long as you provide me with police officers, I'm good for now. We're asking for an increase in, I think it's in the personal services. I believe that there is the potential to have a need for a court-appointed attorney at times. Now that as an attorney I'm sitting on the bench, we have jurisdiction to hear cases that carry potential jail time, and if that person wanted to go to trial and could not afford an attorney, they have the constitutional right to have an attorney. Mr. Kennedy has contacted an attorney here in town that has agreed to provide those services on a limited basis. And so we haven't had to use it yet, but I want to have the funds there to pay the attorney. We also have the funds available for interpreter, to have an interpreter come in. Now, we've had people working within the city in the past that can provide interpretation services, but that's not always available. And if someone's going to come down and provide that service, then I think we should pay them for that. So we are asking for an increase there. I don't anticipate that it would be much, but I want to make sure that we have the funds if we need it. The other thing that we're asking for is to redo some of the front of the bench. It's so high, I have a hard time seeing over at times, and if somebody comes up and wants to hand papers, they fall off, and so we're just asking to rework that bench a little bit.
Maybe a phone book.
Hey, that's
You
what
sit on a
he
phone
said. God.
Call the city, call city.
This court-appointed attorney, if they lose the case, who pays that? And do you get your court costs back, or do you?
Well, of course, we have court cost, and court cost, if the person is found guilty, then they're assessed fines and costs, or other punishment as the case may be. There's nothing in the city ordinances that provide that the defendant would reimburse the court for that, but you know, in the district courts, they do pay $150. I think it's $150. It may be a little bit more now, but it's a minimal amount. You know, the same way if we ever had to start paying for housing at the jail. Right now we have 4 bed spaces. They've never charged us if we've gone over that, but they could. And, you know, I can assess those costs as well as medical costs to a defendant, so.
Okay. So, is that something that we need to consider, changing have a fee on that?
We'll probably need to talk to Bryce about
Oh,
that
yeah, I would
and get his
suggest that.
opinion on it and see what he has to say.
Do you know how much these come to, or kind of a ballpark figure?
I think we asked for the court-appointed fees and the interpreter fees, I think it was less than $1,000. It's just to have the funds available if we need them.
Okay.
But we haven't contracted with anybody for a specific amount, certainly not on a regular basis. It's just an as-needed basis.
In the back here, it says court-appointed attorney fees, $5,000.
Oh, I'm not sure. I'm not sure where that came from, but.
Probably, since it's new, you really don't know what to expect.
Yeah.
You know, you kind of have to, you know, once you get into it and do it, once, you know, have that situation arise, then you have a little bit of experience to go on as to how much it might be, so.
Thank you.
Okay.
We can talk about that. Please.
Thank you.
Police and animal control. Except you don't have any requests for animal control.
Well, we'll talk about animal control after a while. As you can see on my request, first one I guess was the mobile car radios. Did you guys get a printout of the estimates that was submitted from Totalcom?
Everything you gave me is in, except for what was handed out.
Okay, the radios, as you can see, our handhelds, we've had these since 2006, and we're daily, or not daily, but weekly, sending a radio to either get the inside of it fixed because it breaks, or the mics are not working, and it's an officer safety issue when the guys are keying up and they're not working. And it's just a constant battle with those, and you can see that's going to be the bottom one is the portable radios, is the Kenwood. And our radios in our cars, they were bought in 2000, so they're going on 15 years old. And with the way things are changing now, with all of our new digital coming out and the new frequency, the low band, we've had to already have these radios now programmed for the low band frequency, but we're just asking for the new mobile radios along with the handheld radios, which is more of a, it's just time. I've told Mary I feel bad because we've had to deal with the towers and the generators, and it's just all coming to a head, but we've been fortunate on that because I think that 1971 was the last time that was ever addressed. So we've got our money's worth out of that, but it's just we're requesting the new radios, both mobile and handheld wise. Cars. We, as most of you know, Ford discontinued the Crown Victoria. And all of our cars, other than the 2 Tahoes and the K9 unit that was bought last year, they're all 2008, other than one. We do have one that's a 2005 still, and I think nobody drives it. It's just parked out here. But what I'm wanting to try to do, I want to try to keep it uniformed. I know I have quotes for the 6-cylinder Dodge Chargers and the rest, and there's the Ford has come out with the Ford Taurus Police Interceptor. Honestly, I don't know much about those. I know Oklahoma City's got a lot of Tauruses running around, but I would like to try to keep it uniformed. I've talked to Lieutenant Carson and Officer Flam on their Tahoes, and they said it's the best thing we've ever had. I'm sure Lieutenant Odell can speak for his K9 unit. And it's not, it's a bigger vehicle, but you gotta, and a lot of people say, why don't you just drive these little bitty cars? But you gotta remember, we're transporting prisoners. We gotta have the room space for that. You need room space to haul your emergency equipment in as well. And the Tahoes have just been outstanding as far as the room that we have for the back end, to have emergency equipment plus the transport room for the prisoners. With the Tahoes now, and what's the bids that you have in front of you, consider that we're going to trade in 4 cars, and we should get anywhere from $2,000 to $2,500, estimating as a trade-in. So that would be knocked off the price that you're seeing in front of you, because this is the price we just buy them outright without trading. But we want to get rid of the 4 oldest cars, the ones that's going down. I've been really disappointed with the Crown Vic and the 08s. Every one of our 2008s have lost paint. And right now, my officers, if you have a scanner, they go out for fuel, or if they're transporting, they say mileage unreadable, because every one of our dashes is burnt out. And that's on everything, every 2008 Crown Vic that we have now. So we're just trying to get rid of the Crown Vic since they don't produce them anymore, and kind of wanting to stick uniform and stick with the Tahoe packages. And then on the other capital outlay item I had was our training facility. I mean, we've got a nice range house out there. We go out there, we use it, which we got that, y'all seen that before. We got that at really at no cost. And just to keep, certification of police officer every year, we qualify for a handgun. You don't shoot a 72 or better, the state pulls your license, you can't be a cop anymore. So we try to keep our training proficiency. The guys get rounds every month to practice. Was it 50 rounds? And then so much for AR and so much for shotgun. But we just, we're really proud of that place. We're fortunate we have a place to train. We just want to spend some money, put fencing up, because we do have trespassers that come out there and just shoot randomly. We'd like to have just some chain link fence, the gates fixed, air running to the targets to where we can have the flip targets, and just make it a really nice training facility and have something to be really proud of. And I know the Highway Patrol use our facility quite often to train, and it'd just be really nice to have some improvements for that. So, any questions?
Would it be a big hardship to do 2 cars this year and then 2 cars next year?
No, we'll take what we can get, I promise you. But I'm just, I'm concerned that these cars, they're eventually going to go break down. The 08s, and here we're going on 2015. Mileage-wise, we're really good on miles because, well, there's 2 cars that we bought used from Rubel Vance, and they were trade-in police cars, and they were 08s. And they're up and around the 100,000 mile range. But at that time, it was better than what we had when we got those. But no, it's just, I want my guys to feel safe and know their car's going to start and get them to the call. If we're not getting there, we're not helping nobody. So that's why I'm really trying to get rid of the old cars we got and just replace and get something that's really dependable. Plus, these cars will come with 36,000 mile warranties, so we'll be maintenance free as far as factory goes for a while. And being single driven, they don't put a lot of miles on it. They were going 24/7. You're going to rack the miles, but we're fortunate to have cars, the take-home program, where they do rest and sit and not get abused as much. And that's why our 08s have lasted till now, because they're single driven. So.
What about your office building back behind? You want to talk about it?
Well, we better not. It's not in the, we'll talk about that sometime, but yeah, I mean, that's with any place. I mean, we've got a lot of problems within the city as far as buildings, but that'll come when time comes. I didn't do anything budget-wise for that, so.
Okay.
What about the Charger you had, the black Charger that Ryan used to drive? How do you utilize that car?
That was the detective car when we had a detective. And whenever Ryan resigned, I put Lieutenant Carson as a detective, and he's going to when we get some staffing in. But being a guy that's 6'9", and I was driving the Durango, he can get out of Durango easier than what I could. So basically, I switched the car and I drive the Charger, and the Durango's going to be used.
You're such a short guy yourself.
I'm not 6'9" though. I'd love to see him get in that Charger, but no, I just did that as being the good guy. You can get in and out of this a lot easier than I can, so I drive the Charger and the Durango.
So he'll take the Durango then?
Yes. When he becomes a full-time detective, he will be off the street, and that will be the detective car.
Okay, so that'll free up one vehicle there.
Yes. Well, then I mean,
Yeah,
it'll be
I understand. That would free up one of the Tahoes.
Yes.
That he would be driving.
How are you
Well, it'll
staffed?
free up till then somebody else takes it over as far as an officer
Are
goes.
you fully staffed now? Or do you still need some staff?
Well, you can, staff-wise, I mean, we are currently, right now, today, at 10 officers, and that's including myself and the captain. We do have one starting Monday. He's not certified, so we're gonna have to, it's gonna be some time to get him trained and get him on the street. That will put us at 11 officers then.
And we do have an ad out.
We do have an ad, it's, which you gotta consider, if I hired Betty, you want to come to work for me tomorrow, you're looking at 9 months before you're trained and out on the street. And so we did put an ad in to where if you are a certified officer, it's a lot easier. We can bring them in, just show them our jurisdiction, our reports, make sure that it's like a 2-month turnaround instead of 9 months, just to get them here and going. And we put that in there a week or so ago, Dixie,
Yeah, about a week ago.
and I haven't seen an app yet. So, I mean, we're hurting, but I agree with Mary. We need to, we're bucking down. We're all working good right now, and the guys are getting tired, but I think we'd rather work a little extra hard and get somebody in here that's trained instead of spending 9 months to get somebody out on the street.
And then they leave.
Well, that's,
Does that 9 months include cleat certification?
like the gentleman we hired for Monday, he'll attend the academy in August. He's looking at 4 months there, but then he has to come back and show us that he learned everything in the academy. So it takes a little time with the FTO program.
We do now have one application.
Do we? I mean, I would like to see us at 13, we'd be comfortable at, but we'll just have to see how the money is and whether we can do that, but any other questions, guys?
Russ, do we have money in the budget for 13?
What you have in the budget right now is 12 officer positions.
12.
Okay.
In 12, we could manage, I mean, it's,
And, you know, I mean, Betty, honestly, whenever we build that in, we build in a cushion for overtime and for extras, you know, I mean, that overage, if we add that piece back is almost the equivalent of another position. So,
Okay.
you know, it just depends on how we look at it year in, year out.
Yeah, with 12, you're gonna have more overtime too.
Yeah, and
Yeah.
so, you know, and that's what Brian has always been really good about, you know, I mean, and heck, I print out payroll report and I say, man, here's overtime. He's like, yeah, but we had to have it for this, we had to have it for that, and this was callback, and, you know, so
Yeah.
he knows, and he's watching those numbers and knowing where those are, so, you know, that's just,
You
that's
know,
one of the things he does managing that department.
we do the 12-hour shifts, and on their days off, I can promise you they're getting called to court all the time. We have to pay overtime for that. We have to keep 25 hours per year of training. There's always people going to training. We get transports to Western State. I gotta call somebody in to transport, so there's a lot of that overtime, which 12 officers, you could almost say 13, but we're gonna use a bunch of overtime money to supplement a salary, so, you know, it's tough, but I mean, at 12 officers, I think these guys would be happy to see 12 on the department again, so.
Yeah.
But,
Okay.
any other questions? Thank you, guys.
Thank you, Chief, appreciate it.
Wayne?
Well, I didn't really ask for a whole lot. I would like to get a small ice machine. We got 4 fire trucks out there, we take on grass fires and stuff in the summertime, of course, we gotta keep water on there. Right now, we're buying the ice, you know, we just have a small one, make, you know, 8 or 10 bags a day. It would be real helpful.
Wayne, with one of those ice machines, I was over at that restaurant supply place. I bought me a sink for my shop. They have those ice machines that, just like you see in a motel, you lift the door and scoop it out. Is that what you?
That's kind of what I was looking at. I went through a restaurant brochure and they had some small ones that we can just stick in the kitchen. You know, it's not, we can't put anything big in there anyway, because we don't have the room, just something we can get a few bags of ice out of.
At one time, you had an ice machine.
We had one that was donated and it was out in the shop, but our shop's, I mean, it's always open, so if it's 100 degrees out there, it's 110 there, and they don't keep ice. So we just want a small one we can stick inside where it's cool.
Inside it, okay. Got it.
And I like to replace 3 2.5-inch nozzles. The ones we got, I'm not too sure when they was made. I know they're antiques, maybe relics, but they're large and they're heavy and they leak, and we just like to get up to date and get the smaller ones that one person can hang on to instead of 2 guys having to hang on to these great big nozzles on the big lines too, because it takes so many people to hang on to them. So, and on the ambulance part, right now, I mean, we're required to have portable sections. What we got now are these little plastic throwaway ones that you got squeeze handles, so you're just, the faster you squeeze, the more suction you get out of there, and they just don't work. I like to go ahead and maybe get them some that are battery operated, where, you know, they got a constant pressure on there, and you can do your job with them. That's all I had.
Attaboy.
Thank you.
All right.
That finishes the general government,
Yeah,
right?
that finishes the city side.
The city
Yeah,
side.
Of what we're talking about.
And, so now we're into the,
Was there nothing on animal control, I guess?
No capital requests anyway. Well, they'd like to have a new facility.
Yeah, okay.
We'll talk
But-
next year.
Yeah. Maybe next year.
Maybe we can move that down near the police range, and we can just kinda combine all that.
You built the fence for the police range with the.
Yeah, put the dogs in the fence.
There you go.
So that takes us to Perry Municipal Authority, and so I think Brian, front and center.
Jumping back to capital requests on this while he's coming up, page 17 is where we're gonna flip now to run down these capital requests. Before Brian speaks, Mary,
No.
we might talk about the admin side of it. You know, I mean, we're gonna take $30,000 out of the admin department. You know, we'd always kind of left that over there for sidewalk repair last year. It's kind of a carryover item, so we're gonna go ahead and reduce that $30,000 out of there. Not gonna be as much as Sam's 200, but it's admin's part of taking money out of the budget this time. You guys can mark that one off, and in the next draft, you will see that $30,000. Now, I can't wait to hear your
This is a good one.
All
This is
right.
real good.
Bring it.
Tree trim and line clearance, that's to bring a contractor in. We've traditionally done this for as long as I've been around. It's nothing really new. This kind of goes alongside, you know, we continue to trim trees all year, but he comes in and hits it real hard for about 2.5 months. Normally it's when the vegetation's off the trees, it's easier. That's something that we've just traditionally kept in the budget, and it's went up and down. We're pretty aggressive the last 2 years on our tree trimming, and it's actually paid off. You know, we had a little ice this year, and we really went through it really good. And, anything about trees that anybody worried about? Anything? I'm gonna move along.
It's preventive maintenance.
It is. It's your life of your system, basically. I
And
got
our
a
line
little,
loss. I mean, no, part of our line loss and part of that overall electric cost
That's
that
exactly
we
right.
incur is running down those trees into the ground
That's
and not
exactly right.
getting delivered to the house. So that maintenance and upkeep that we have helps keep our line loss number down,
Right.
which overall affects the overall utility rate that everybody pays.
Exactly.
I just wanted to-
Couldn't have said it better myself. We got a little bit in for industrial park, and this is just basically to extend the line that we have west. It's got to be done. I mean, we know that we're going to have people there, so that's what we're looking at. We're not looking at any. We don't know the load there. I can't say, well, we need this transformer, we need this wire. This is just to extend what we've got farther west and take care of anything that comes up. The next.
How do you pay for that out of economic development funds? That's what.
Well, we've always budgeted, we budgeted it over here, based on what we need to do. Yes, if we wanted to move those to economic development funds, we could.
This is, you say extend west, be a little more definite.
Okay, where we're at now is where, what is it, Cedar Street that's actually gonna go through there. I've got like one span into the industrial park,
Right.
actually. We do go north up by Arnie and Concrete. We have nothing
Okay.
to the west. From,
You need to
75
supply to the
yards.
west side of that
Exactly.
industrial park.
You're
That's
gonna follow
exactly
that
right.
road that they put in.
That's the plan. Yeah,
I
follow the
think
road.
that needs to be
Yeah.
put over and
The next thing I got, we originally budgeted for the 2013-14 year, and it's feeder lines. There's 4 feeder lines that come out of our substation. They're numbered, but we don't traditionally go by numbers. We've got a Ditch Witch Circuit, an East Loop, a downtown. That's kind of how we do it. We've got 2 feeder lines that run west, out of the substation cross country. One of them ends up behind the water plant. One of them ends up behind where the old power plant was, if anybody remembers that's here now. I'm sure some of you guys do. The poles that's remote. It's creek bottoms, it's fields. The problem with it is you can't kill it out to fix it. It has to stay energized the whole time. And with the crew we have, it's basically going to be a contract deal. I purchased with this year, with the capital outlay that we had, I've got basically all the material for it. So I'm only asking like basically half of what we budgeted last year, and this will just be for contract labor. Good with everything? Any questions? I'm up here willing to answer questions.
That,
Let's keep rolling.
you're not talking about the double pole area, you're talking about the single pole lines that's coming west of it.
Correct. Correct. Yep. They one of them runs basically just straight west of the
Yeah.
sub, and then one's just a little bit south and west. Forklift, something we've never had. I've always depended on Sam with a loader with some forks to unload material. Everything used to come on a flatbed trailer. Take our digger truck, snatch it off. We're good. Nothing comes on a flatbed anymore. Everything's in a FedEx freight truck. Anything from transformers to wire, you can't get in with our digger truck to pull it out. So, haven't done a lot of shopping on them. It's kind of something that I might turn a little bit over to the mechanic. He seems to have a knack for finding things like that. So, I wish I could have said I found one, and yeah, Sam beat me to that deal. Lakeview Edition. It's probably not on the budget. I kind of omitted that one. My mistake. Probably roll over what we budgeted last year for it. It's basically what we've done is put temporary poles in to supply what used to be underground. Underground's got 30 plus years. Some of it's close to 40. It's just run its course. So I don't have any numbers for you on that. I forgot to bring them in. So.
We put it.
What happened was the underground failed, and normally when we build new construction, everything is in a loop, which means you can feed it from this way or from this way. Well, back when they did it, they decided they wanted to go here, so they just dug it up, put a splice in it, and went here. So we have no backup feed anywhere. You can only go one way. What happened, you lose a piece of that underground cable, there's no backup to it. There's no feed anywhere. So what we did was actually go install a temporary overhead line and it goes down to the transformers that are on the ground. That was a way to eliminate, more of a quick fix, Band-Aid basically is what it was. It's a Band-Aid to fix the problem. And it's been a Band-Aid for quite some time.
So you're saying we need to rebuild Lakeview?
Correct.
We put $150,000 in the budget last year for it.
That might get it.
Bill, you stole my thunder. Russ actually gave you permission to talk.
But now, is it gonna be,
Hey, shh.
is it gonna be underground or is it gonna be above ground?
It will be underground. Right now, the everything above ground is just a temporary solution.
Okay.
Yeah. To fix just outdated cable, basically.
So you're thinking 150,000, it's gonna be more than last year's estimate?
I would assume so. I haven't got good numbers on that, and a lot of that's going to depend on. Some of it's going to have to be contracted. The problem we run into there is limited access. Number one. Number two, it is so congested. The underground lines you've got sewer, cable, water. Actually, what they did in that whole area was they buried the sewer and laid the electric cable right on top of it. So
would you consider then going through the front?
No, the route we've got is basically right where we are, but we are able now, I think, to actually get a loop feed in on some places. It might require small easements, just like through one person's property.
I know that the subdivisions that they're doing now, they put up the electric out front.
Right. I think it's probably more cost effective to go back where we were, simply because we already have all the services to the houses running to the back.
Right.
Yeah. And to answer your question, off
Stoplight?
budget talk, we've been contacted with ODOT, we've been talking with ODOT, and the actual problem was the light placement's correct. The stop stripe where you stop, when that was installed, they didn't take into account there could be crosswalks there. So if you back that stop stripe up to where a crosswalk would be, your lights are visible.
How far back from where they're at now?
I haven't actually done a measurement. I talked to Bill Walton from the state, and he was going to take care of it and get it the way it needed to be.
I just kind of did an estimate in my pickup. I had to be 8 feet back from where the stop
I actually
stripe's at
think,
now.
my guess would be the stop stripe would be farther than 8 feet. If you look at where a crosswalk would be, it has to be behind the curb. So it's going to take you back quite a bit, which in turn is probably going to change our settings on our times and things, because you're going to be another 10 foot back or so.
Maybe 12, 14 feet.
That would be my guess, probably real close to 12 foot.
Well, and I've also wondered, we've got a lot of huge stuff that comes through Cary. If something big comes through there, will that knock it out?
If it knocks that one out, it's going to knock everything else out in town.
That's what
So
I'm
we're in
worried
pretty
about.
good shape there. Yeah.
But I mean,
It's regulation height. We've got plenty of clearance over a state highway. So we're where we need to be on that. I think maybe it looks shorter, just the style that's up there.
why did they pick that?
That's the style we had, and that's the style we went back with. It was basically we have to do a full-blown intersection like we did on 7th Street and 15th Street, or we could replace what we had for a fraction of the cost. A minimal amount of the cost, yes. Yep.
That went back real cheap.
Yeah. Substantially cheap. All right. We got.
That's a heck of a lot better than what was up there.
It's a lot better than a barrel in the middle of the road.
Absolutely.
I can
I do like the flashy lights you put on top of the barrel.
Yeah, that helps.
That was nice. That
helps.
was an addition from Sam. It looked really good. I initially budgeted for a 3/4 ton pickup to replace a 1990 Chevrolet 3/4 ton that we have. That Chevrolet was purchased from OG&E, like when they did the rebuild back in the 90s, and it was probably wore out then, and it hadn't gotten any better. What the plan is to move the newest vehicle we've got is 2003, move it to replace that pickup and actually get a new pickup, superintendent's truck basically is what it would be. It's not an imperative deal. It's not something that has to be done. It's to the point the mechanic really doesn't feel like it's worth spending any money on the one that we have. So it's still roadworthy, but for how long, we don't know. And that's basically it. I kept it pretty small this year. What do you think about it?
I was gonna say this might be one of the lowest.
Well, a lot of that stems with,
Talk to Wayne, did you remember Wayne?
No, I meant for the electric.
for the electric.
For the electric, yes.
With our health issue the way it is right now, I just know there's projects we're not gonna be able to get to that aren't as imperative as what I have here, so.
Except for the $175,000 for Lakeview he threw in there.
Well, and really, we're gonna carry that
It's
appropriation
in the-
over.
it's in this
from-
year's
Yeah,
It's in this year's
We'll have to
budget.
beef it up a
We
little
will
bit.
just carry
Yeah.
that appropriation.
Sure. Questions, comments? All right, thank you. I'm out of here.
Well, you
Thank
gotta
you,
listen to
guys.
everybody else, they stay.
He's all hot seat. He's
I've asked Ty to go ahead and come up at this point. Steve Reddy is not here. This is his first budget year. I thought everybody knew that they were to come to the meeting, but since he's not here, maybe he didn't hear that.
Have we called him?
I haven't called him.
Steve,
Yeah.
they're on a big water leak. I've got one of my guys out there.
Okay,
too.
okay. Well, so he's excused.
Sims guy.
Okay.
My budget that Russ and Meredith so kindly put together is a very good budget. I think it's something we can deal with. The items of capital outlay, I think Mary has got some things going on there that if she feels free to discuss them with you, that's fine. I'm not going to discuss them with you. The crack sealing material that she's got down there for $3,000, we've already put that into our budget. We're already using it. We used some in the city here recently. The 1 ton with the snow blade for $35,000, that's Mary's guess. The 2 hangers, we have all our hangers full. Every hanger we have is full and rented out completely. We don't have room for anybody. We were looking at building 2 more. One of them I've already got rented, but we're not going that way right now. We're waiting on some other decisions to be made in that area. And Mary can explain those to you. Other than that, I'm just feel good about my budget, as long as Russ and Meredith and you all do.
As long as you keep on selling AV fuel. You know? So as long as you keep on selling AV fuel the way you've been selling it.
Jet fuel is really, I mean, with Ditch Witch there, and then we've got 2 helicopters spraying that take jet fuel. Our jet fuel sales is, I've been ordering it once, twice a month.
Yeah.
4,000 gallons in a whack. It's just blowing out of the place.
And that's one of the numbers, if you guys are looking at their operating budget, you're gonna see that AV fuel sales up, and likewise, you're gonna see the cost of it up. It's actually listed out there, under gas and oil purchased for resale on page 19. But that's why you're seeing such a drastic increase. Matter of fact, I thought that he was on drugs back in January, whenever I looked at the amount of AV fuel purchased for the month. I said, "Sir, are you for sure we're supposed to have 2 of these?" And sure enough, whatever you look at the sales numbers.
Ditch Witch as being part of us out there now. We just put 600 gallons in them the other day so they can make a trip. We've got, like I said, 2 new helicopters who have leased the big hangar down on the end. So we no longer have a hangar that we're putting 5 airplanes in. It all belongs to them. And they've got that with a pretty permanent rental. They don't plan on going anywhere for a while. So that looks good. Both our hangars that we built, the 2 40-footers, one of them was rented before we ever built it, and the other one was rented before we got it finished. So as far as hangar goes, if you feel free to donate, we can sure use more of them.
What happened to the 5 planes you were gonna put in that big hangar? Are they sitting outside?
No, with the 5 planes were gonna go in that hangar. Over nutrition, some of them have left, some of them have sold. We got an occupant that come in with a helicopter business, and so he wanted the whole hangar, so he got the whole hangar. So basically, we got the same amount, a little bit more money out of it than what we would have if we'd have had 5 airplanes in it. And he's also, we had it set up on city electricity, now he has got his own meter. So he will be paying also the electric in that building.
I seen something going on down there, I was wondering what was going on.
Yeah. Also, we're putting in a 2-inch water line connection down on that end of the airport for fire protection and for sale of water to them. So we sell water to Kelly Reams on the north side. We're gonna start selling water to them on the south side, but we also got a 2-inch line where before we just have frost-free faucets is all we had with garden hoses. This way we got a line that we can hook a big water hose on to protect the hangers.
Is that metered, or will they meter coming out of a valve down there? How are we gonna meter selling water to him?
It's metered through a regular water meter. He's got it, we're putting in a 2-inch water meter down there for him. Kelly Reams has a 1-inch water meter down on his end, and he has 2 storage tanks that he keeps full. So whenever they get low, he fills them with a garden hose.
What would it cost you to build another hangar?
I don't know.
25, well, you,
We,
two for 50,000.
yeah, 2 for
Yeah,
50,000
and we can do that, we did that less than that. We didn't have any electricity problems because we have a certified electrician working at the airport. So he wired up everything, we just bought the materials. We did those 2 hangars, I think we came in somewhere around 41,000 a piece on it.
You
And-
think you could fill it? Could you fill one if?
Ma'am, I've got one standing out there in the yard right now. He'd be willing to move into it right away if we had it done. But Mary can explain to you any other things that we have to talk about on those 2 hangars. Anybody else got any questions?
we are on the trail of a used truck with a snow blade on it, and I haven't heard back.
Yeah, she had it in here for, it was put in here for 35,000.
Right, but
But
we're
we're
on,
looking at another vehicle from another department.
yeah.
Sam surely could have found one of those in Colorado, couldn't he?
Well, they have. Well, they're probably using them. Well, snow they
We just need to let the Air Force know that we need some used airport equipment.
We've looked at the one that Mary's talking about, and it's I think it's a real good truck with plows and everything on it. We can also mount our welder on it, which we use for auxiliary power around the airport, and we can take it off that trailer that we have all of our crack sealing equipment on.
When we have big snows, Sam and his crews go out and help.
Last year, Sam sent a truck and a grader out with us. When we had Ditch Witch had to leave, he was more than glad to send us a truck out. We had about 6 inches of snow, and they cleaned it off in plenty of time to get them out of here.
Maybe the old street sweeper could go out there. Throw it out of the way.
I
The guy
worked for
freeze to death
I worked for
inside.
the state several years ago when we had those bad snows, and we come out there in the middle of the night and clear that driveway to
Many
get into
times.
the airport.
Yeah, I've had a
And-
county road grader guy come
And
by.
so I know that that's a need. I mean,
Yeah.
you know, if the state wouldn't been nice enough to just go in there and do that, you know, I know it's a need that you have. So.
I think it was about 4 or 5 years ago, we had that big drift snow. And we had a county road grader guy was going down to do Pioneer Road. And he just made a path through there and shoved it all off to the side and gave us the least we could get in without walking through the snow. And the state's people, anytime they go by doing 77, they'll come by and do it for us. But we do need something that we can work the runways with because of having Ditch Witch out there that, at a minute's notice, they may have to go.
Thank you. Any questions, anybody? We'll let Mary finish up.
Thank you.
Water,
Yeah.
I don't know. I'm not.
Anybody need a cookie?
Yes.
Let me just kind of hit a couple. Tyson's going to get involved. Tyson's coming out to talk about Penn. If he's in there and hears that, he'll come out at some point. But, you know, the other funds, as you flip back, we're now talking about, we talk about the general cemetery fund, you know, I mean, and what we're doing there. And then the cemetery care, you know, I mean, we kind of talk about, we're going to use up the cemetery care money this year to cover that piece. The other two funds that are sitting in there are that limited purpose sales tax fund. Again, that's the 1 1/4 cent sales tax for debt service on the line from Lake McMurtry. And then the street sales tax fund, that's pretty much the pledged sales tax to cover the debt service on those two. So that would hit what both of those are. And then the last piece that we have in this budget would be page 26, which is Tyson's.
It's always weird being out here, looking up and thinking.
You didn't flip it
I hope-
over.
I
Hey,
hope
how
my
about I
microphone
flip it
isn't
and I'll make
peeking out
sure
right
that
now.
that you show up on it.
Yeah, no, that's good. No, I like the bald spot view. Bald spot cam. My budget is pretty simple. I didn't ask for, well, I asked for one capital item, and that was to do some upgrades in here. It looks like it didn't get funded, and I completely understand why. It's not a real necessity. The reality is I'm pretty well set up in my equipment right now. I'm pretty happy with where we stand. That's the last kind of thing that I could ask for and justify. So that's not a huge big thing for me. The microphones are kind of a big deal, but I'm looking at other options for that, and I still have money left in this year's budget that could potentially be used for that. So no big thing there. Other than that,
What is this, the optional, what did that include?
it would be 3 camera replacements for these cameras here to move to HD as opposed to the standard definition, which are what these are.
I don't want HD. That's too good camera.
That's when you look at this and you see the definition on here, a high definition camera, even though we broadcast at standard definition, would still provide considerably more resolution, so you'd see it better. In addition to that, I now put up all council meetings on YouTube and in HD. These are still recorded in HD despite the fact that the cameras are SD. So that would give viewers an option to see things in HD if they wanted to. Speaking of YouTube, our YouTube channel, I'm just going to throw that out there right now. It's youtube.com/user/City of Perry, or you can just go to YouTube and do a search for City of Perry, all one word. It is picking up in popularity, especially the April 21st City Council meeting, which had over 52 hits, which, given our average 6 to 8.
It had 52 hits?
52 hits. 52 hits. It was
Just City of Perry what?
just City of Perry, all one word, for YouTube. You can just search for that.
Oh, okay.
It was almost 3 hours and 40 minutes. There are over 1,950 minutes watched. I'm not entirely sure what that works out to be, but it's a lot. I think it averages out to an hour per person who watched it. So I think we all know which hour they watched too.
I watched the whole thing and sent it to my friends too.
Did you? Wow. Your friends are crazy.
46, yeah.
The last year's parade still tops the charts. I think it's got over 150 views on it now. So it's of use.
When you look something up, is it by date or how is it?
I have, for city council meetings, there are playlists for a year. So I have like the 2013 playlist, and you can see it. You just go to our playlist section, and you'll see the 2013 and 2014. So you can go back and watch all of 2013, and they're in sequential order. Yeah, I know. It sounds, explaining it with words makes it a lot more difficult. When you see it, it's very simple. So
Point and
I'm
click.
just thinking.
exactly,
Just
point and
point
click.
and click. See what you want.
I've upgraded the graphics to make them look more professional. I'd really like to enhance our YouTube viewership. So they all have their own screen capture title cards, and it says very clearly on there, it has City of Perry seal. So it looks good. Anything else?
So you're not asking for anything?
Well,
Not other than my normal operating expenses.
Okay.
That's You know, if you want to give me 3 or 4 more people, I would take a staff.
They have to be.
I don't know what I would do with them exactly, but I would.
3 or 4 more hits
I
on
would just
our YouTube
have
channel.
minions, huh?
Yeah,
Yes,
3 or
that's
4
right.
more hits on our YouTube channel.
You don't want that kind of responsibility.
I don't want that kind of responsibility, actually. I like my department the way that it is. I'm very happy with the way that things are set up. I'm happy with the equipment that I have. It's great. It's not something that you need to upgrade constantly, so it's not something that you'll see me. This is the biggest proposal, and I'll probably propose this every year until I get it, and I will make you tell me no. But honestly, the most exciting thing is the blinds. When we get some blinds up over here, I will be thrilled. For times like these, if I go to a shot of you guys, you'll be black. It'll be completely dark because the cameras.
I want to go back over there.
What happened to that, what happened to that green sheet you had at City Hall?
I still have it. I actually have 2. One's at the school and one is in City Hall somewhere.
So you could put it up
The
here
green
and
room.
you could put a background.
You don't want that, man.
Flowing water. It's amazing what our council
Flowers coming out of your ears.
I would like to set that up eventually back at City Hall somewhere less conspicuous than where it was. But the way that I have the lights set up and everything set up at the school, I don't really have enough for 2 sets of that. But I would like to do more in-house projects with department heads, with Mary. Really utilize the free service that YouTube offers us to get messages out there. Stillwater utilizes theirs extremely well. Enid, to a lesser extent, Stillwater really utilizes theirs a lot, and I would like to continue to do that. Obviously, everything that we produce gets put on PEN as well, but a lot of people don't have PEN. YouTube offers them an option.
Are we still working with the high school kids?
We are still working. As a matter of fact, today was officially the last day. They'll graduate on Saturday, and tomorrow I'll be up there picking up my equipment, bringing it back. So, as far as I know, we're still intending to do that again next year. It was a moderate success. I'm pleased with the overall outcome. I think I learned a lot, and Brian learned a lot. So that next year will be a fuller experience. We spent a lot of time at the beginning just figuring out what we're going to do and how we're going to, what we were going to teach them and how we were going to teach them and how we were going to utilize the equipment that we had. And next year we'll build upon that, provided we get students coming back and keep doing that. We're also looking at working with Brock Campbell and Campbell Communications for sports broadcast next year. So we're still working on that deal. As a matter of fact, I need to write a proposal. My computer did die recently, so I'm also getting a replacement for that. But
How many kids do you have in that class?
started out the year with 12 and ended with 15. We lost 1 at the semester and picked up 4 more. So started out the year with 11 girls and 1 guy. Zane Johnson, and I don't know if that's a good thing or if he really regretted being in that class full of girls, but anything else? The wizard's going back behind the curtain again.
Okay.
Thank you, Mr. Wizard.
Wave to the camera.
Yeah. Hello, Perry.
Well, that was water and sewer, and I don't pretend to know all the technical ins and outs of Steve's budget request of his proposal, and it's quite lengthy, and so I would suggest that we maybe do that at another time, maybe at the next, we didn't intend to continue this to Monday night's meeting, but we may need to do that, possibly. I don't know.
I think we can at least talk about it maybe Monday night. That way, at least it's out there. You guys have heard from him on his side of it. You know, in the past, you guys, the existing ones, you know, whenever you were trying to get Mary or I explaining some of these technical pieces, you know, and the actual department head requests, I think it's been a whole lot more beneficial as we did last year and this year to get to hear it straight out of the horses' mouths, than trying to get it from us and what the necessities are and how they get them. So I mean, maybe we'll put a time limit on him for Monday night, you know, so that we're not here for exorbitant hours. but-
Yeah, let's don't be here at 10:45 or 11.
No.
Bryce will be back on Monday night too, so, all right, maybe we shouldn't extend that.
I'll skip out on you, I won't be buying dinner, that's for sure.
Anyway. But, so with that, I would, that finishes up the department presentations and the details on that, so, I don't know where, Mayor, where would you like to?
Well, you guys have heard from our department heads and seen that, in my opinion, they're doing a great job, and they brought back real issues and real costs and real requests. It's up to us to make some tough choices, especially in our street departments and water sewer. So we're gonna have to look at this thing and try and study it ourselves. If I can be of help to you in any way with some of the equipment he requests there, I can tell you what is functional equipment within the plant and then what is not on some of it. But the water and sewer's got legitimate requests in there. We've just got to schedule it, prioritize the whole thing and see what we can do. I would like to go to item 2 now. Is there anyone in the audience who would like?
Do they want to discuss?
Oh, you guys want to discuss. Okay.
I don't know if there's anything more to discuss, or if you want to do a thumbs up or a thumbs down to any of the requests, or.
I mean, at this point, I really think, is there something in this budget that you all don't want to see going forward? I think maybe if we throw, especially related to this capital projects, is there something that we need to remove from this list?
Or add.
I was gonna do add as the next group. I wanted any deductions first before I went to additions. And you guys can digest this and then come back to us, one-on-one, whatever, over the next, budget hearing is on the 2nd of June, so, we're not gonna be rushing for Monday night or anything like that. And I don't know why I thought it was Monday night, but.
I think it originally was, there was some concern that we weren't gonna be able to turn it around quick enough.
Okay. See, maybe I wasn't smoking dope or something. Thank you. All right. Maybe I wasn't.
Okay.
All right. And then likewise, on additions, and seriously, as we look down that, we know the street projects in particular were one that we've discussed
and we'll
in
need
depth.
And we'll need some direction from the council on that.
And take your all's guidance on what to do on that piece.
Well, the one thing that I think we need to think about is the Parks Department. Brenda, I really do think she needs somebody else right now. I think she's mowing all this stuff. And we've got a lot of parks. I think she needs help. I think we need to hire her or somebody else. I think that ought to be in addition to what we've got. I don't know how she does it myself.
I don't either. Who's taking care of CC Lake Park?
Parks is. We have some additional part-time folks that will be starting, so it's, what she has now, it's not all she's going to have, so.
I do have one question for Sam on the streets.
Yes, sir.
How long for each one of those? Is all that something you can do in a year, or is that more than a year? Is that?
We have to ask the engineer.
I think that's a good question. I don't know the duration of those two longer projects, but I would be glad to attempt to get a guesstimation from Evans.
Okay.
If you'd like me to do that.
Yeah, I think, at least I'd like to see that we're not budgeting for anything we can't accomplish in 1 year.
Right.
If you require engineering on those, and then let it out to bid, then you're talking about 18 to 24 months
But we'd appropriate it this
Yeah.
year and do it, is that how that
At least
works?
get the engineering.
Yeah.
Okay.
If it's something, and a project as big as the project out in Fairview, I think that's one, you've got to get engineering done, and you got to let it out for bid. The same way with Boundary. You're looking at a half mile, just about a pavement there, is that right?
On Eagle Lane,
No,
Boundary.
on
Boundary.
Boundary.
It's like 3 blocks on Boundary, 4 blocks,
Well, you're going from 12,
11 to
15.
15.
Yeah, 11 to 15.
yeah, if the both proposals would be approved, it would be 4 full blocks.
I'm just trying to get an idea of how much, what we could get
Right.
accomplished and, what we could spend on that.
Yeah, we could probably could get it set up to let in spring of next year, of 15. If we did it for engineering and letting and all that.
Right.
So,
Well, I think that the project, as far as Eagle Lane, we've kicked that can for the last time, as far as I'm concerned.
It needs to be done.
It's horrible.
yeah,
We've got to
It's
find a
sad,
way.
that's
We've
what-
got to find a way to fund that. I mean, I know that the Fairway Drive, that, it needs an overlay, and I respect that, but that other street, there's no, that is, and I'm not putting down any neighborhood in the town, but that is one of our newest neighborhoods. And the streets are absolutely horrible. And there's no call for that. Like Mary said earlier, when we accepted that into the city limits, annexed them in, we assume that responsibility. And we've let those folks down. And we need to find some way to fix it. And I know for several years back, that's been on the proposal, and we've always taken it out. And I think we need to try to find some way to fix that.
so those were built back when Hollingworth was mayor. That was a long time ago, 20 years ago. Because
And
he
they weren't
wouldn't
built
accept-
right.
He wouldn't accept.
And
it
they weren't
into the
built
city.
right then either.
He wouldn't accept it into the city limits because it didn't meet our standards. And it was later brought in by another mayor and city council. So, yeah, if we're gonna, we got mud showing up through the pavement now every time it rains, so.
It's not showing up through the pavement, it's showing up through the gravel.
True Well, Sam did a pretty good job patching it. Like throwing Visqueen down in the sand.
Well, the good news is that I'm pretty sure we changed our ordinance so that, if someone's gonna build something, that the streets have to be up to code before we'll accept them into the city.
But that's not the problem, they were not in the city when they built it.
No, but now if someone builds something and we're gonna accept them into the city, they have to meet code before we can accept it.
So you wouldn't, like if Skyline wanted to come in, you wouldn't accept them?
What's the benefit to that?
Well, the deal is that their streets are gravel and dirt, and they have to meet the standard.
I'm just asking, what is the benefit? I mean, I know this is a budget meeting, what is the benefit to accepting, let's say,
An
the
existing-
Skyline
an existing
into
subdivision.
the city of Perry?
More voters?
I mean, we don't get any, we
Vote for mayor.
don't get any ad valorem taxes or anything off of them, and
Well, we don't get ad valorem anyway from anybody.
that's what I'm saying, we don't get it. I mean,
The deal is, I think it's, if someone, this is not time for that argument, but I'm in favor of annexing some of the properties into the city, because they're getting their fire protection anyway, and the police protection, they're getting water and sewer, a lot of them. I just think that if they're going to provide the services, they ought to be in the city. And that gives us a larger voter base. It gives us growth. It does, and when you look at corporations look at population counts, they see growth. Well, then that's a positive, and that's just one of the things. We've got a lot of people just on the fringes of city limits. And that's our growth going out there. And if we could capture that, then that makes us look like, yes, indeed, we're growing.
It's annex Dixie.
Ground zero.
I mean, that's the reason I see for doing it, is for the development purposes and growth.
Well, and if somebody would do a development right outside of city limits, they could bring in CREC, you know?
Every subdivision I ever surveyed was not in the city limits until it was added as an addition to the city. All over Oklahoma County and Logan County. And at some point that applied to the city and meeting its standards, and the plating would say that, and the city would have to sign off on it as being acceptable. And that's just, that just, to me, it's a positive for the city to have the growth start showing up. But I still think that, one, their streets got to meet our standard. Any of them. Street, water, sewer, electric, need to meet our standard. That's another argument for another. Let's keep it going here on topics of our budget. We've got our guys here and ladies here, so let's.
We've talked about some things that have went up. One of them was insurance, you mentioned, that we budgeted an increase for insurance. What have we cut? What things have we cut?
Well, as far as the decreases, last year, our capital projects numbers are down this year.
Outside of capital projects.
Because of that.
Let's set capital projects aside.
Really, outside
What
of,
have we cut?
outside of those, we haven't cut any of those. Our operating expenses are all at about the same level as they were last year. So we haven't
There's
cut
nothing
any.
there we can cut.
The department heads run a pretty tight ship, year in and year out on what they do.
And I think we're short on employees on all the departments, aren't we?
We are short employees, yes, throughout the budget.
Well, except for Tyson, yeah.
But were those employees budgeted last year? Let's talk about
Yes,
budget.
yes,
Let's not talk about
yes.
short personnel.
Yes.
We're talking about the budget.
Budget, yes.
Right?
They were budgeted positions that have not been filled throughout the city. There are, I'll tell you how many opens that we have. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 open positions within city government right now that we have not filled.
That includes police.
That includes police, yeah. That's, I'm giving you all of them. So, here's, as far as the operational expenses go, whenever you talk about materials and supplies and other charges and services, if we start cutting much more out of their day in and day out budget for those pieces, effectively, they're not gonna have anything to work with. At that point, we're gonna start ending up with employees standing around, and so now we're paying employees and not getting anything accomplished. So I don't want to go in and try to cut more out of the materials and supplies or the other charges and services. The only thing we're gonna accomplish is maybe an additional reduction in force, because we won't have something for somebody to do. Every time we turn around, Brenda needs 2.5 more people, to take care of that. We've got to have some electric help so that we're not doing what we're doing. The police are, if we're going to keep up, effectively two cops on the street every shift, and
So how are we
running
gonna do
that?
that without raising revenue?
Well-
And not making cuts? We're
Well,
talking about two
this
sides of
year-
this equation, and we've said we're not gonna raise revenue.
Yep. And so what we cut
So
out
how
is
can we
capital
continue
projects.
to keep increasing expenses?
You
see what I'm getting at here?
I'm with you. Yeah, we're at a process. Matter of fact, that's why if you look back, one of the things that we
All
did
we're doing
this
is
year-
kicking the can on it. We talked about kicking the can earlier. Now we're kicking the can on revenue increases to a future council to sit here and have to go to the citizens and make a large you know, a dramatic increase.
We did that dramatic increase back in
I
06,
know,
07.
I was here when we
You-
did it, and I did not
You,
like it.
Betty, I think it was the only two that
I
were
know.
on the council.
And
at
I don't
that
wanna do
point.
that to a future council,
That we did.
because I didn't enjoy that.
It was tough. Matter of fact, we had gone.
And I thought we
at that
talked
point-
then about, you know,
Doing small.
we were advised by our CFO that we need to do small increases every year.
I would much rather.
Is that
still-
correct?
And I think we still feel that way.
More than just our
We
power
still-
cost adjustment, or,
We
you
still
know.
feel that way.
No.
So, I just heard a lot
I'm
of.
getting loud, I need to quiet.
I-
I'm
you
not
know,
doing that.
I think the reason why we came with no proposed increase in electric is because of what we're hearing. You know, either out in the community or from some of the council or, you know, from the people that come in, from the mayor, you know, I mean, you know, because I know he walked the beat, you know, walked the entire town. He heard a lot of that. And so,
Let me
I'm
just-
not saying that we, you know, I mean, it's a decision by all of us, whether we do or we don't raise electric
Right.
rates. But, you know, 1% electric rate's $83,000.
But that's $83,000 for the entire citizens. Let's talk about, that's 60 cents a month to our 500 kilowatt hour customer. That's all we're talking, if we say a 1% increase. You know, and guys, 1% is a very small number. If I don't say 1%, if I say a 60-cent increase to every utility customer, your bill is gonna fluctuate 60 cents. Just depends on what time of day your air conditioner kicks on and off. You know, I mean, the 2% on electric, which honestly, if we're really starting to do some things, that 2% on electric, $1.20 a month. Yes, it is $1.20 a month. But on our 500 kilowatt, low, mid-low residential customer, you know, that, we're talking at a 2%, we're talking $1.20 a month.
Okay, we're talking about residential. How about our commercial rates that are way low for the surrounding areas? I just shot myself.
Now, you're getting into a can of worms here,
There you go.
and I'm telling you why. I have 4 buildings, one personal, a house. I have 3 commercial buildings, but I don't use but one. But I have to pay commercial rates on all 3. And I would hate to be raised when I'm not using it as commercial.
You need to rent them out to citizens and get them down to residential.
I thought about putting bath showers in them and saying, I'm putting my son in there. So,
Well,
The joys of property ownership is all I can say. You know, when you choose to own property.
We've got to find some way to bring businesses in here that's gonna generate sales tax. We've got to raise the sales tax revenue in this town.
yeah.
I agree.
That's the only way we're gonna do
Because
it.
really, right now,
Because-
all you have is 1% sales tax that's unrestricted.
The other
the
way to
other-
fund this town
Uh-huh.
is through our utilities, and that's it.
And we can't keep using that to raise year in and year out.
Guys, the majority of the communities that we work with operate on at least 2 cents of general fund sales tax to fund its operations. To fund operations of the city government, you know, we're operating, as Mary just said, on 1 cent. You know, I mean, we're not on half of what everybody else does. So where do we go to make it up? The utilities is the piece, you know, the utilities are receiving the benefit of it right now. They're getting a 1 1/4 cent subsidy on the water line, effectively. You know, and we've talked about this in the past. But, you know, I mean, if we didn't use sales tax to pay for the water line and water line had to pay for itself, our water rates would be significantly higher than what they are. So we've offset it with a sales tax to keep it down, but we've offset it, that sales tax has done a detriment to the city operations, to our police, our fire, you know, our libraries, our streets, you know, in particular. And so we've done ourselves a disservice on that. The other item, Colin, you know, I mean, that we've done this year, and think of it kind of as a float, because right now we haven't budgeted in any electric rate increase. We're effectively using up all of our cemetery care perpetual fund this year, about $120,000 that we're transferring over to cemetery operations. In the past, we've used that transfer to come out of general government and fund it because we've had the extra revenues. So we look at it this way, we kind of subsidize being able to keep everything else flat this year because we're using that perpetual care money instead of using it. We've talked about other things for that perpetual care money in the past. I mean, we've talked about, some long-term internments, those kind of things, and some long-term capital improvements out there. Columbarium, but we're going to forego that.
That was a word I learned in here.
That's a big word.
That's effectively foregone now, because we still see the need of things that need to go into the city, but we're not continuing to raise those rates. I would be the first one. I would love to be able to sit back every year and you guys pass a flat 2% a year, graduated increase to the extent it meets certain requirements of CPI out there, so that we're not outpacing CPI. And every year we can come back and know that we're gonna have a 2% on water, sewer, and electric, and garbage. And then we can automatically build those numbers in. And another thing is you don't have to sit around and have these discussions because, guys, we know costs are going up. Costs are going up every year. It's not, I don't care how much we try, how hard we try to go cut things, the world is going to leave us behind if we don't continue keeping pace with it. And so we've got to turn around and look at those increases and make sure that we are at least keeping pace with what's out there. It's life. Inflation is there, and honestly, our inflation, as long as the oil field is staying active and those kind of things, we're falling even further behind inflation numbers because we can't go out and contract out to get the help that we need at the same price we could 2 years ago. Those dollars are drastically outpacing us. So anything that we don't do in-house and that we have to go find, contract work for, contract support, those numbers are leaving us behind. We can thank Obama for the healthcare issue and giving us, 6% of our increase this year is only because of changes in the policies that we had to have. That's what the insurance companies are allocating it to us. I can't do anything about that. I mean, the only thing I can do about that is my vote, at the next congressional election and the next presidential election. But today, I can't do anything about it. I'm stuck with the rules that we have to play by, and it's going to cost us a flat extra 6% on our health insurance this year. Those are the kind of things that we can't affect. We're just dealt that hand, and so we have to make it work. Yes, we juggled a couple of balls. We've tried to keep operational expenses flat. We're borrowing from Peter for 1 year, at this point. But I'm afraid whenever everything comes back and you guys say, let's do Eagle Lane, let's make sure that Brian's 1986 pickup that he's driving, we've got to put that back in the budget. Our Crown Vics, if we want our policemen to get up and down the streets, if we put them in Tahoe, there's $300,000, $350,000 worth of projects, even outside of the streets, that are probably necessities that for the ongoing function of this city probably need to be taken care of this year. But Mary's bitten the bullet and said, if we're not going to do it, if we get no electric rate increase, then how are we going to get through? And I mean, honestly, that's commending Mary for making this work, guys. I probably would have brought a budget that didn't work and said, here, you guys are just going to have to do it. Between Meredith and Mary sitting down and crunching numbers.
I remember that.
I've done that before where I said, it's just not going to work. But, this was a very asserted effort to make it happen. Is it what I would suggest you do for the city long term? No. And I'll let Mary speak for herself, but I'm pretty sure she's going to say, if she had her way, no, this isn't what is best for the overall health of the city of Perry long term. If that's what we need to do this year, we can be on board and make it happen, you know. But you all are gonna have to give us some direction on that. And if there's room to pick up, you know, even a 1%, a 2%, you know, on that side, which I think a 2% number is still a reasonable number, especially if I say $1.20 a month. $14 a year is what we're talking the increase.
Well, when we did this before, we were looking at raising it 6%, because we were that far behind.
That's right.
And we ended up doing
Sure.
3%.
Yeah, we did 3.
And with the idea that we do 3% every year.
So we got
And so now, what I'm seeing the council doing, they're kicking it down the road, like you said. So one of these days, we're gonna come up and it's gonna be 4% or 6% again, just to stay even with the board.
You're right, Mayor. You're right, Betty.
Yeah.
You're spot
But
on.
how do
I
we
mean, we
get,
don't
how do we
like
get
it.
more businesses and stuff coming in here and more money coming in that way, so you don't always have to keep increasing everything?
You
Well-
get your businesses to stay open on Saturday and Sunday and getting some people in here to spend money.
Really? Yeah, I know that, but you also gotta have more businesses
Yeah, we
too.
gotta expand our.
You gotta
base.
expand what you got, cause some of the businesses that are here have been here for a long time. So you're gonna have to expand as well. I mean, you can't keep counting on what you currently got. It's been here for a long time.
And you know what? We're going out and bringing in new businesses, but we're not taking care of the businesses we got. Either. So,
How are we?
How are you not?
How we, yeah, how we not taking
You
care
say
of
that,
these?
but I mean, give examples.
we're always going out and trying to get in new restaurants and things like that. And we have some restaurants that are really hurting right now, you know?
So are we supposed to go fund them? I mean,
No.
that's my question.
We could stay
That's
here
what you're
instead of
asking.
going to Stillwater and eating and buy our groceries, things like that.
Yeah, I could stay here, and if I had a grocery store here that was comparable to what I can go buy, I've got it, you've got,
That's
you don't
fine.
have
You
near
can
as
go
many
to
people,
Stillwater
Betty.
and fund their schools, fund everything over there.
It's not about funding their schools.
No?
It's about taking care of my family. And there's been talk, this council sat there and we've talked about, we need another grocery store that's competitive.
They
And if
can't
we had
pass.
something
They
competitive,
don't
I'd
pass
use it.
because nobody will go there.
You're
You
telling
got
me
to
if,
support your businesses in.
you're telling me if we had a Walmart neighborhood market out there that nobody'd support that?
They would.
You just said they wouldn't.
I'm saying they would. I'm just saying that we need to support the ones we have here too.
Again,
Yes.
you put something out there that the prices are right and they're gonna support it. But you gotta get competition. We don't have competition.
Maybe if we spend our money here.
I'm not
we
gonna
have
argue it, I
competition.
mean, it's,
Let's move on.
yeah, it doesn't make sense.
The point being that citizens have got to make a concerted effort to support local business, to keep
Right.
sales tax here, and any way we can do that. I made a mistake when I was building my building, went to Lowe's and bought paint instead of going to a local person and buying my paint. And then I heard about it. He came to me personally and said, you know, so from that point on, even when I bought porch paint, I'd go buy the porch paint at one of the local people here. And Gwen had a business for 40 years here, my wife, and she can tell you how if you're not supported locally, then how things fluctuate year to year. One year she'd have an average of 20 customers a day, and next year she might have 12. But that hurts. We had a shoe store in town that's no longer here. It lasted 2 years, and I know it was a good one because my daughter-in-law from Houston, Texas would buy her shoes here for her kids and herself. And we had a dress store here recently in town. It didn't last 2 years
We
because
had a
people,
Sears, a Penny's, a Stage.
people have got to. They say they want it here, then we do need to shop here. Yes, the prices are higher, but the benefit of paying those is sometimes outweighs that. Unless you got a family of 4 or 5 or 6 and you're trying to buy groceries for them, and instead of paying $300, you end up paying $400 or $500. That's a big difference. And I don't get on to anybody for shopping where they shop. I just try and remind you that this city has got to show growth, and there's ways to do it. We've got to find other ways to get sales tax collected. We need sales tax producing firms in here. We need to find other ways to finance this city other than the utility rates. Utility rates should take care of themselves. If there's some profit there, great. But another thing, we got to find other ways to finance this government. I committed to, on my campaign, that I would not vote for an electric increase. And I made that very public. And I wouldn't, because I've seen what it's doing to my mother-in-law. I see what it's doing to other citizens in town who are having to make choices that they shouldn't have to make between medicine, food, and utilities. And it's a sad situation. Families are having to subsidize their parents' utility bills in a lot of cases that are still working. So it's something we got to take in consideration, not only in our mind and in accounting, but in our hearts. We've got to work at a way to find more. But today's budget is today's budget. We need to take care of it in the most professional manner we can, no matter how it turns out. We've got to do it and stand behind it and stand behind each other. So we have any more discussion of the budget from anybody? Well, we're down at the recommendation, which is to review, discuss, and take votes on issues deemed appropriate. What issues do you think that we need to add or deduct from the budget, or do you want to go over it more and come back with those comments or actions?
Have some time to digest the presentations and the discussion.
I think that'd be good.
Yeah.
Okay. Right. There's no action necessary. Well, then we'll go to item 2. Is that consensus on that? Input from the public. Anyone here would like to speak? Janet?
Yes.
Come ahead, please.
Well, the budget concerns that you all have, it makes me a little nervous coming up here. However, it was also a great segue into mine because you were just saying it would be great to support our local businesses. Guess what? I have a local business, and I'm asking you for money out of your budget. But before I get into asking money out of your budget, I wanted to give you this information that's real basic information that talks about our business and just some information that you can take back and refer to later. But my guess is that most of you all have no idea who I am. You know each other, you know your community, but I've only been here for 1.5 years. My name is Janet Clark. My family has been here since 1960. I've been gone for 38 years. I came back 1.5 years ago because my mother is Irene Clark. My parents were Gordon and Irene Clark. And they bought the Otasco. I don't know if you all remember that building, but they bought, yeah, we burned it down. In 1960, and they kept that building till it burned down, and then we purchased the old Safeway building when they moved down and built what became the Homeland. And we remodeled that store, and we have been in retail business from 1960 to 82 when my parents retired. After that, they rented out that building to other retail establishments. Until Dollar General decided, after 16 years there, decided that they would build their own building. Therefore, my mother was in a position where she needed to do something with that building. It's a large building, 6,500 square feet. We worked
for a year at trying to find the appropriate retailer to come in there, and we looked for another. My mother searched far and wide. We publicized a lot about the building, and we actually went to, or my mother went to different corporations to have different grocery stores to come in here and have competition in Perry, Oklahoma. They were not interested in coming here. It's too small of a venue for them, and they would not rent our building. We became very frustrated after a year of them being gone, and so I went with my mother to the Chamber of Commerce, and we visited with them about what kind of retailer do you want in here. We've tried to get a retailer, and we can't get anyone that wants that kind of building. That, you know, we had a lot of local people who wanted to put, you know, a small business in there, and that just wouldn't work in that large of a building. Well, what was told to us was, we don't need more retail space at this point. If you really want to do what our community needs, it would be to put an event center in. We have plenty of people that beg for a place to have their family reunion, a place where I have a graduation party on Saturday after the graduation is over with. We've had birthday parties, anniversary parties. We've had a lot of citizens already been using it, and I'm really not marketing the program yet because I've been spending the last year and a half on renovating the building. Well, then my mother goes out and buys another building. The small event center is down at 6th and Cedar, where the old Foot Plus place was. And so I have spent the last year and a half renovating both of those buildings, and it was major renovations. So they've turned out to be very good buildings, and we have tried to design those so that it does meet the need of the community. Our main purpose here is certainly to make money. We are a for-profit business. But the other major part of what our business is about is doing what the community needs. You know, if you just put in something that we think we need, we're afraid that there's going to be a big flop. So our theory is if we put in what the community needs, then it'll be a win-win situation, not only for us, you know, for a profit business, but also for the community. And if the community needs an event center to have their events in, then that's what we put in. I have not marketed this program, and I've had plenty of events in that building already. And even down at the little building that I've just gotten finished, we've already had events down there. People have come to us asking us, can we rent it, can we rent it? What I want you to know is that that is only one part of it. My background is, I've been in higher ed. I've worked for Tulsa Community College and for the University of Nebraska. Education is what all my degrees are in. And so training and development, economic development, coursework is my background. I created professional continuing education classes. I created College for Young Scholars, which is a gifted and talented program. I've created lots of programs, even welfare to work programs. So I've worked with the gamut of people, brought continuing ed for professionals into the community, so with that kind of background, it made it a natural for me to move back here after being gone for 38 years and recreating in here the things that I know how to do in education. But what I want you to understand is that part of my purpose and goals in this business is to provide self-supporting things, like the things we've already had in there, the birthday parties, the anniversaries, the professional continuing ed that's already been in there. I have a women's retreat that will be there in 2 weeks. 300 people will be in the city of Perry for 2 days. They are renting the hotels out here. They are buying groceries at the grocery store. They are spending 2 hours walking around the square on Saturday when they're here,
shopping in our shops. That's one example of what the people that rent my building do. But this is a women's retreat for 2 days, and they're even going out to the CC Lake, and they'll be out there as well. And these are people that are coming in from out of town. So these are people that are spending money in our fair city. That's all for profit. I'm not asking you to support that. What I'm asking you to do is to, as you see in that handout, I'm asking you to help us with another segment of classes and training that cannot be done by course fees alone. In that, the people that, what I've researched is that our county has some of the lowest paid people in Oklahoma. Some of those people, if you'll look at the list of topics that have been identified by some groups that I've met with lately, so if you'll look at some of these things, basic cooking skills are some things they need, caring for your aging parents, computer classes, supervisory leadership, car maintenance, just basic parenting classes. A lot of the people that we would target for those types of classes here cannot afford to pay the course fee for that. So what I'm asking from the city is for you all to support not only our business, but our community citizens, our people that really need these types of classes. I'm not asking you for money to fund all of that. Some of that will be paid by the individuals taking the classes, but I want to be able to make the amount that is charged to the citizens of Perry affordable. Now, when they're going to have a birthday party in my building, that is not something I'm asking you to help fund. I'm asking you to help enrich the educational needs, the support that the citizens of this community need. We were told that this is what this community needs. And that's why I come to you, is to give you an opportunity to help me to help our community. So with that said, do you have any questions for me at this point?
Could you explain a little bit to us on the council here? I know you have Wi-Fi capabilities in both those locations.
I do.
And would you describe that and how enhanced it is maybe to the board?
We have tried to put into our buildings the type of training ability that will get us into a position that we can not only work with individual groups in the community, but also corporations, so that they can use our Wi-Fi, our Ethernet, and so we have 24 megs of internet capability where we can put about 35 laptops in a room at one time and provide them high-speed access. 24 megs is like what OSU would have. The typical home, residential home, has about 6 megs, and we have 24. So we have very good computer capabilities in our buildings for professional groups, but also for individuals as well.
You say you're having 300 coming in?
On the 30th and 31st.
Okay, how are you gonna handle 300 people?
What do you mean, how am I gonna handle
Well,
it?
your building probably can't hold that many, can it?
We're coded by the city for 295.
In your biggest building?
Yes. And 225 in the small building.
Is that just chairs? Would that be chairs or tables too?
Tables too. We've already had 250 in there.
Wow.
Yeah. It's a big open area in the big building.
Yeah, I've been there.
Okay. The small building has individual rooms as well as a small open area. as well, but that's designed for smaller groups.
This statement she put together for you here, she was contacted to provide some space for Career Tech.
Meridian Technology. Mhm.
And so she called me and I got Brett and Jennifer to go with me, and we just sit down and brainstorm about some things that Jennifer thought that she would need, or someone in her same situation would need as a parent, a mother, and a breadwinner. And then some of the health care things I think are important now as far as mental health issues that we see. And Brett also. What she was looking for when we described this was things that they could come over and teach, or things that we could teach here with local people. And I know that the OSU Extension and the Meridian have people available to come over and teach topics that would help young mothers or young parents, not only in just balancing a checkbook and how to stay out of credit card debt, but things like that, which I think are important to the community and to especially young adults.
There will be a lot more discussion about that, because I am just getting completed with all my renovations, and so haven't had time yet to really focus on developing the business. However, like the mayor said, we have already met with Meridian Technology, and they want to look at bringing classes here. They asked me to meet. I wasn't quite ready to meet with them, but they asked to meet so that they could see our facilities, and they saw both buildings, and they are very interested in bringing those classes to us that we need. And so they've asked us to, in turn, put together another group of people that they are willing to sit down and meet with, provide lunch for, and they want a cross-section of community people that know what the need is. I've been gone for 38 years. I've done a lot of research, but I think that those people out in the community that deal with these issues on a daily basis are the ones who need to do the majority of the input on what kind of classes and training that we need to be brought to Perry. And that, therefore, we've got about 10 people so far that we've come up with that we're going to be meeting with on June the 10th to community people who are going to give us more ideas on what Meridian Tech can do to bring training here. These are some of the ideas that have already been asked for, but we're really interested to see what do we really need to bring here. It's worthless to put stuff out there if there's no need for it, and we really want to bring to the city of Perry what you all really need. So that's what that meeting will be for. From that, what we expect to do is to bring classes starting in the fall. From Meridian. And then we'll also engage some of the local nonprofits to also bring some of their professionals in to, like especially the mental health issues, to bring them in to do some classes on like depression. How do you identify it? And then where do you go when you've got those issues? When you have a teenager that's acting out in really aggressive ways, what do you do with them? Are there things you can do at home that can intervene with that child? So I just think that these are going to be some fabulous things that we can bring. We're going to try it for a year and see what happens, and we just hope that we can have your support as well.
Have you gone to the hospital or someplace like that and seen if they might do some grants or something like that?
You know, we have not. I would certainly entertain that if those monies are there, but my only concern about that is we are a for-profit business, and grant monies usually are not.
Well, you'd have to work with the hospital and let them put it on, basically, probably.
Well, and we're happy to bring them, to our buildings to do that. We sure are. But grant monies usually are not for not for-profit organizations. They're usually for nonprofits. Any other questions?
Not for me, any other?
Right, thank you very much. I appreciate this opportunity to address you all.
Thank you. Well, that takes care of item 2, doesn't it?
I think so. I think that when I gave the all clear, they all cleared.
Any input from anyone else in council?
I know, no, you have to stay.
Hey, if you're gonna keep having these 3 and 4 hour meetings, I mean, you're gonna,
You got cookies.
steak dinners or
I know.
something for us, you know?
I know.
Motion to adjourn.
Second.
Motion and second, roll call, please.
Yep.
Trustee
Yeah.
Dow, Moxley. Norman.
Yes.
Warner. Yes. Johnson.
Yes. Thank you. I'm not voting no on that.